All right, all right, all right. Would Kamala have done a tenth of this escalation? I think I can speak calmly and clearly on behalf of all internet leftists when I say that Kamala Harris would have done exactly this. What's up? Didn't think I'd be going live again today. Oh man. I wish Vosh would stream more in the monkey paw curls. Yeah. Yeah. I'm hearing reports there are troops on the ground. This might actually be a lot worse than just a bombing. Where's that combat footage? What?
Ok, siguen las explosiones, se escuchan helicópteros, son las 1:58 de la mañana. Están atacando el fuerte Fiuna.
Helicopters in the sky? Yeah, not just any helicopters, but Chinooks, like special forces troop transports. It's possible that we actually have boots on the ground in Caracas right now. That's not good. Yeah, it's not great. Okay, you can't trust anything from Pamphlets Y, okay? Somebody else just linked this. Breaking huge missile attack slams into Caracas. Anyone recognize this footage? You can't trust that. This, I'm pretty sure, might actually be from Those are from 160th SOAR, part of the force we've been seeing doing drills over the last few weeks. Yeah, that makes sense. They've been threatening to send troops into Venezuela for a while now. Yeah, that's a pretty distinct helicopter shape. Jesus Christ.
Mamá huevo, qué locura. Moscaí, mira esa mierda, explotaron allá toda esa mierda porque tú no estás explotando.
Mierda, marico, se prendió el peo en esa mierda, ¿oyó?
Huevo.
Marico, llegamos a tiempo a la casa, ¿oyó?
Marico, mira esa mierda.
I didn't think they had the balls to do it. I mean, we'll see if they've actually put troops on the ground, but judging from those helicopters, it seems like that's what they're intending to do. They've bombed the port and they've bombed a military base. I don't know if they're landing troops. I don't know what the goal is here. If we get, like, video footage of American Special Forces racing through the Venezuelan capital shooting people. Jesus Christ. You don't send Chinooks unless they're carrying troops? Yeah, that's the conventional logic. And stealing buckets of oil? Yeah, they're just running in there. Every Special Forces operative has a big metal pail. They're going to fill up with oil, then run out.
No, marico, esto no puede ser en serio.
Marico, vamos a moverla.
Graba ahí, graba ahí.
Espera.
Graba, marico. No, me está jodiendo. Marico, no puedo creer esta mierda. Marico, me está jodiendo.
Marico,
tengo el corazón pillado.
Ya, marico.
Llama ya mismo.
Ah, bueno, puede ser.
¿Y pillaste? No, yo vivo al lado de Fortuna, weón.
Marico, se me quedó siempre en el puto teléfono.
Could the UN or something
sí.
do something? No. Is there any air defense at all? Basically, no.
Marico, tengo el corazón a 1000, pues. Allá también, marico, escucha. Nuestros papás deben estar
Muriéndose.
A mi mamá le da un infarto.
My best guess is this is some kind of decapitation strike in order to take out Maduro himself. Maybe. That'd be crazy. Also, like, what's the follow-through on that? Also, like, I don't know how many troops they're bringing. I don't know if they want to lose people there, you know?
Marica, se prendió en candela, weón. Viene otro, no. Dale, vamos, dale aquí. Dale. Mierda, marico.
Are they just expecting to kill Maduro and have the army give up? I don't understand what the long-term plan is here. Like, the Iraq war, killing and replacing Saddam Hussein and the Iraqi government was like a multi-year process. We spent a year planning. We had to occupy the entire country. Even if we had a successful decapitation strike, what happens after that? One of Maduro's cronies takes over? Like, you're not going to replace the entire political infrastructure of the country. I know what they want here. What they want is to replace Venezuelan leadership with, leadership that's favorable to American business interests. That's always what we've been doing. That's always been the plan everywhere. I don't really understand, like, how, though? The shit-ass lady? Yeah, but, like, if the shit-ass lady took over right now, they would just, like, kill her. They would just, like, it took a lot of effort to replace Saddam Hussein, you know? Like, it wasn't just they took out Saddam Hussein specifically and then the next guy took over or whatever. They had to level the entire government and replace all of it from the ground up. And it didn't even work. And then we got ISIS. The administration doesn't have a plan. Yeah, that seems like the most likely possibility. Is this illegal? I mean, does it matter? Yes, but does it matter? Major secondary explosion? Okay. I do appreciate that for once it's easy to know if the footage you're seeing is recycled from the Syrian civil war because of the climate difference. We've been so used to seeing this shit play out in the Middle East, you know? I just don't understand. There's like no public support for this, right? Even Iraq 2003, when it happened, had major support. Yeah, they embarked on like a year-long campaign to manufacture consent before the invasion of Iraq, and they did so with the United Nations, and there was a big military plan. In this case, like there's none of that, you know? This is actually footage from, yeah, this is from this is from the Franco years. This is from the Spanish Civil War. Exactly. Jesus Christ.
¡Uy, nos están invadiendo!
Tanks have been deployed by the Venezuelan armed forces in Caracas. I would really like to know what's going on down there, because if they really are sending people on ground, they're going to get killed. Like, it's one thing to conduct a bombing run, but flying helicopters over an enemy capital and then landing people, like, what do you think you're going to do? Just fly out afterwards? The Venezuelan military isn't exactly strong, but they can shoot down helicopters, right? Like, there's a real threat. We place a high priority on not losing servicemen, you know? It's you get in, sure. Are you getting out? The fact that they were willing to commit that many resources to doing this, whatever the fuck this is, makes me wonder if there's going to be a follow-up. Like, are they if they're sending people in like this, if they're sending like troops on the ground, if they're sending special forces in there to conduct some decapitation strike or whatever else, are they following that up? Are they going to be alone out there? Did you see how many helicopters were deployed? Yes, I saw. Like, this is a significant commitment of resources. These helicopters and the people in them are expensive. It's not just like a drone strike. A drone strike is relatively like low risk, high reward. This is you're risking the possibility of being shot down here. No one in America wants to risk like the PR nightmare that would be one of these getting hit with like a Stinger missile or something and going down. They get out via airfield seizures. Yeah, okay, but that's not a guarantee. And also, airfield seizures, like, you're not securing like air superiority to the extent that you can prevent a fucking ground-to-air missile from flying up and evaporating your crew. You know, like that's not realistic. It makes me wonder if they're securing an airfield to bring more people in. Are we bringing armor in? Are they securing an airport so we can drop more people in? Because a bunch of special forces boys on their own, we saw Russia try this, right? On their own, they're just going to get killed out there. Venezuela has zero counter defense. Well, not zero. You know, it's always possible to lose a helicopter. I don't know, man. Surface-to-air missile was launched. We don't know that for sure. The U.S. is ostensibly really good at establishing air supremacy. Yeah. But what I'm saying is these are helicopters. You can fire a missile from the ground. That's what I mean. Flying helicopters over an enemy capital when they could have... You don't even need a missile. You can shoot a helicopter down with a conventional firearm. You know, like they're flying really low. It's insanely risky. The fact that they're taking the risk makes me wonder if they have more armor to back it up. Like, is this a real invasion? Looks like we're taking over an airport. That's exactly what we would do if we were trying to follow it up with like with a full invasion. Four minutes ago, new notice to airmen issued by the U.S. FAA regarding airspace over Venezuela prohibits all flights over the entire country's territory starting at 6 a.m. on January 3rd. Oh, boy. We might actually be invading. Like, it's not just a bombing run. We might actually be prepping the capital for... "6 a.m. is kind of a late start, though. Trump's really trying to distract from those Epstein files. Funny as it is to blame the Epstein files, in reality, like, this was always going to happen. Trump has basically no control over his own administration. It really has nothing to do with Epstein. This is just a consequence of pre-existing inertia in the U.S. government. Capitulation to oil and military interests. Yeah, Rubio is far more likely the direct culprit here. And Rubio is and has been a stooge for those same oil interests for a long time, you know? Is there anything more than oil? Realpolitik, I guess, the satisfaction of engaging in modern day colonialism. Can you talk about how leftists should talk about this? I don't want to see lefties saying they're happy American soldiers will die and shit. Okay. U.S. soldiers have a right to refuse illegal orders. I don't give a shit, man. If you're one of our boys and you're getting sent over there into Chinook, for one, you're probably special forces. Listen, okay? We have to accept our role. We have to understand that we are, in fact, the great Satan, okay? Anything that happens to those boys is a rightful, legal, and God-justified exercise of morally necessary self-defense on the part of the Venezuelan people. And that's just a fact. That's in the law. That's in God's book. It's as simple as that. It is a legal duty for U.S. soldiers to disobey illegal orders, as bad as they are doing that. How are you being the big Satan if most Venezuelans support this? Quick, procure a poll right now showing me that 51% or more of Venezuelans want America to bomb and invade their capital. Please. Time's up. You're permabanned. Except I forget which chatter said that, so you're not permabanned. I don't care enough. Is it too early to blame Israel for this? No, 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 never. Never. Not saying they shouldn't be taken out of combat, but the optics will be terrible. Nah, fuck it. Fuck the optics, Froggy, on this, dude. We're invading a country for no fucking reason, okay? I'm tired of the shit. Remember the Iraq War? Remember how the most the dickless liberal media could come up with to criticize the Iraq War was like, criticize the war, support the warrior, you know? We support our troops, which is why we don't want to send them over there. But man, I'm sorry. At least with Iraq, they tried to manufacture consent. With this one, they're not even fucking trying, dude. Also, those Chinooks do not have regular U.S. infantry in them, okay? Those are special forces. Those people are psychopaths. Special forces units in every country, not just America, are made up of sociopaths. They're the cream of the crop. The whole point of the military is that you get 100 people who are desperate for healthcare and education together, and you put them through training, and you put them in situations where you get to test them. And of those 100 people, 3 or 4 of them will be actual blood psychopaths. People who enjoy killing, who want to rape and kill, who have no moral qualms whatsoever. Those are called special forces. You take those people, you put them in the core team. Those are the people who actually get the work done 99% of the time. Hoorah. From the president of Colombia. Right now they're bombing Caracas. Alert to the whole world. They've attacked Venezuela. Oh, boy. U.S. polling is overwhelmingly negative on this, by the way. Yep. Nobody wants this. The UN must meet immediately, Lamau. Listen, okay? His toolbox here is limited. Oh, boy.
Papá, estar tranquilo. Allá va uno. Se ve, no sé si se ve. Mira allá donde se ve. Lo tapó ya la montaña.
What do higher-up politicians sans Trump gain from this? Business, as we all know, businessmen, like the upper crust, the bourgeoisie, are not human. They are voracious, greedy blobs of money and avarice that want to claim anything and everything. It's why they're still competing over who gets to be the wealthiest man when we're now dealing with multiple people who have hundreds of billions of dollars in their assets, okay? Every one of them wants to get everything up on everyone else, all right? There is no limit to this. There's no practical need for it. And one of the ways that you can expand your business, if you work in oil, coal, gas, whatever, if you want to create more and more of a natural monopoly, okay, is to engage in this Cold War ass behavior of invading countries that nationalize their own natural resources. This is literally where we got the term banana republic from, by the way, doing this exact shit. And it was the same back then too. It had nothing to do with rationality. It's not like we're solving problems. There's not like a logistical problem that we have with the world that could be solved or mitigated. There's not like an explanation or a justification or anything. They just want everything. They're just demons. There's no, you can't, what do they gain from this? The point isn't that they gain. Would you make a deal with the devil thinking like, well, there's no reason for him to fuck me over. They're just like that, man. The scorpion as it sinks into the river. Lol, lamau. This is just what they do.
Eso creo que es la vaina de Delcy, la casa de Delcy Rodríguez, si no me equivoco.
It's too early for any real reporting yet, love.
¿Lo ves? ¿Cómo le disparan, weón? Vaina por aquí.
I don't know if this footage is legit, but if it is, that's pretty fucking insane. We're gonna be getting the fog of war for a while. Can somebody link me the footage of Venezuelan tanks mobilizing? U.S. air tanker inbound to Caracas? Oh, my tummy hurts. There are already zones without electricity. Yeah, they knocked out power in parts of the capital. And the military base. Look, the real line right now is: are we dick waving, or are we securing the airport so we can land armor there? Because that's the line between invasion and like special forces operation. Obviously, whatever we're doing right now still constitutes an attack and an invasion. But I'm talking about the arbitrary bullshit U.S.-led guidelines of international combat here. Okay, that's the line of severity, right? I mean, they must be going for Maduro. No, they went for the airport. And if they're securing the airport, that really only makes sense if they plan on landing something there. It's the middle of the night. It's not going to be daybreak for like 5 hours down there. 4-ish. If we land a bunch of armor there, bro, that tank is weak as fuck. Yeah, this is what the Venezuelan army has to deal with. You know, if we just landed a couple of Abrams, I mean, it would be like, what's the expression? You know, wasps entering a bee's hive. Cute tank, though. Yeah, it's cute. Wait, isn't Venezuela besties with Russia and China? Not like bestie, but yeah, sure. They're in the same camp. The local military airport is too small for our large transports to reasonably land on effectively. If we were to do an invasion, we would need to secure the nearby international airport. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like that's a very detail oriented claim. That's a very like specifics oriented claim that I would need more information to. This just in, U.S. Air Force disables nearly all of its transponders. Yeah. You could land C-130s, but our larger transports wouldn't be able to land there? Maybe. This shit has to be impeachable. Everything the president has done is impeachable. Anyone can impeach. Will they impeach him? No. These can't have been lawful orders. These orders are objectively illegal.
Venezuela has become a hotbed for every adversary of the United States to operate in the Western Hemisphere. Hezbollah has operations. The terrorist group Hezbollah, based in Lebanon, has operations that are that have been widely reported.
Okay, we're invading Venezuela to defend ourselves against Hamas, or something. We're bombing Hamas tunnels.
To be based in Venezuela. Iran is operating in Venezuela, Russia, China. It has become sort of the satellite state for the countries who we consider our adversaries and who are bent on.
Voice of Dr. Julian Epstein, Dem strategist. Wonderful. It feels inaccurate for the title to say America bombs Venezuelan capital. I feel like American invasion of Venezuela begins is more accurate. This is not just a random bombing run. You need to watch this? I'll decide what I need to watch. Thank you. I looked at it and I decided that I did not need to watch it. Yeah, I saw this one. This is the second land bombing since Iran. No, this is a much bigger deal. We sent helicopters in. Most of the time when we bomb, it's just missiles and drones, which are, there's no risk of an American being killed. You know, that's kind of the big line. I'm just waiting for footage to show up of U.S. boots on the ground. All air traffic moves around Venezuela. Multiple flights are supposed to be headed to land. Yep. Wow, they caught on to that one quickly. Look at that. Totally cleared the airspace. Didn't even take them an hour. I'm absolutely geeked right now. What the fuck is happening? It's time. We're being drafted, boys. Get your goddamn... What a way to fuck up a high. It's the second day of the new year. You're trying out shrooms. You've got a trip sitter with you. You check your phone to, like, load up some chill beats to relax to or whatever. You see the going live notification because you ring the bell like all good subscribers of my channel do. You tune in. It takes you 15 seconds to navigate the UI to get to my stream, and now you're here. Hey Vosh, there's a bunch of strata tankers off the coast. Can I get a confirmation on that? I wouldn't really say off the coast here, but yeah. Like, very off the coast. Just regular-ass planes over here, just fucking running. Just running. Man, look at them. Nope. 20, 30 minutes ago? No, I don't think so. Yeah, that's the Stratotanker. Look at the destination, NA. Well, yeah, I mean, they were probably headed to Caracas or something in Venezuela. Now they're like, fuck. I guess we're going to Colombia. Are airplanes being diverted? Yeah, airspace has been closed. I mean, technically, we don't have the legal authority to declare airspace closed over Venezuela, but in a practical sense, we do have the martial authority to declare the airspace closed over Venezuela, you know? It's kind of a might makes right situation. Right there. The Stratotanker is likely sitting in wait for the C-130 sitting in eastern Puerto Rico. I just want to know where the fuck our fleet is. Are we gearing up for a landing? Are we just taking the airport? This footage is fucking crazy. I guess this is real. It's getting reposted a lot. Just some poor bastard, like, in the line of fire for a fucking attack helicopter. They wouldn't even approve this on a congressional level? Baby, Jesus Christ. What the fuck does Congress have to do with declaring war? What is this, like the 1870s or something? Oh my god. What year is it? Dumbass. That's a big old gap. This doesn't have the information I'm looking for. They probably won't deploy many ground troops till they destroy enough infrastructure and military targets. Give it 40 to 60 more minutes. Yeah. Ooh. Look at the cover the New York Times is providing our military. It was not immediately clear what caused the blast in Caracas. Yeah. Yeah, obviously. Same old, same fucking shit. Striking ships in the port.
No sé si fue un barco.
It can't be full scale because we'd be getting a lot more videos. No, see, the first thing they took was a military airport. It's not like there were civilians there filming, or like if they're the people at the military airport that has been seized aren't going to pull out their phones, they're going to like shoot back, right? So it's very possible that right now we've already taken their airport and we're just waiting to bring in more people. You really think they'll try for a ground invasion? I don't know. I'm not the motherfucker that sent a bunch of Chinooks over fucking Caracas. I'm not the guy who sent a bunch of low-flying transport helicopters over an enemy capital. It's not exactly a drone strike. CBS said Trump is aware of explosions, lol. Signed off by Barry Weiss. There are reports from RT, unconfirmed and unreliable. There is a separate invasion of the coast by U.S. Marines. I would need to see confirmation of that, because if that is the case, that is absolutely fucking insane. Also, the statement, Trump is aware of the explosions, might actually be the most technically correct thing to say. I would not be surprised if Trump was not aware of the details of this plan. Trump says everything he's told. Every secret he's given, he immediately blabs about. He shared state secrets so many fucking times. Every time they make him take a dementia test so the people around him know how long they have before he actually, like, shits himself live in front of a camera, he tweets about it the same day. Just passed my third cognitive test, aced it bigly, you know, like he never shuts the fuck up. So I am not at all surprised, or I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he was not really informed about this. CBS confirms U.S. operation. Thank you, Weiss. Got a link for CNN Live? Yeah, link it here. Coastal footage with gunfire in background may be from rifles. Hold on. I don't trust this. This has one like. No, this is Caracas as well. Ay.
Mira dónde va uno, mira. Una vaina.
Ay, Dios mío.
Potential IDs on locations. Here we go. Right, they bombed a ship in the harbor. PVID, John Marquis spoke the direction of a base, number of military academies. Yeah, we struck the home of their Minister of Defense. Oh, sorry, Miss Pixel. Probably not then. Good luck. 3 minutes. Sorry. I tricked you. The defense minister is unreachable. Yeah, he might be dead. Where is it confirmed there are boots on the ground? We sent Chinook helicopters in. We sent troop carriers in. Like, this isn't a drone strike or whatever. We sent like transport. What are Chinook helicopters? You've seen them before in fiction. You are immediately familiar with their shape. Here. It's like the classic. This is the one where 20 guys go hop 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 and run inside, and then when they land, then a bunch of guys with like black ski masks jump out and do whatever. It's the transport helicopter. They're fun to ride in. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Check out the Pentagon pizza tracker. I'm sure. Have the Dems said anything yet? No, it's 3 a.m. over in D.C. What are the chances of NATO getting involved? None. Total media blackout from the Pentagon. I guess that makes sense. The Pentagon did kick out all of their fucking correspondents. Everyone but, I don't know, what, Lindell News? They're Comanche helicopters. It's not 1969. I don't care. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. You fucking linguistic descriptivist. You piece of shit. You fascist. Reports of boots on the ground. We saw this. I don't know if this necessarily confirms that. That being said, given the way things are going, I would be extremely surprised if we did not get confirmation of boots on the ground sometime in the next like 20 minutes. It seems pretty much guaranteed that's where this is going. Ground fighting erupting in Caracas? Oh, this is the footage. Yeah, we've seen this one. This is presumably footage taken from the military airport. The small arms fire is probably Venezuelan soldiers firing at the helicopters, and then this is the helicopter retaliating with bigger guns. I'm pretty sure that in this you also hear a helicopter Gatling gun, don't you?
Papá, quédate tranquilo. Allá va uno. Se ve, no sé si se ve. Mira allá donde se ve. Lo tapó ya la montaña. Están atacando. Eso creo que es la vaina de Delcy. La casa de Delcy Rodríguez, si no me equivoco.
Yeah.
¿Cómo le disparan, weón? Venga por aquí.
That could be a Venezuelan vehicle. I don't think a Venezuelan vehicle is firing rockets down on people speaking Spanish. And I don't think they have Gatling guns either. That shit's expensive, you know? Not saying it's new technology or whatever, but maintaining... Like, that's an America thing, baby. I think they mean the small arms fire. The small arms fire is almost certainly from Venezuela, yeah. Jesus Christ. Full statement from the Venezuelan government on U.S. airstrikes. They might not just be airstrikes. They probably aren't just airstrikes. The Bolivarian government of Venezuela rejects, repudiates, and denounces before the international community the grave military aggression perpetuated by the current government of the United States. Violation of UN Charter, da-da-da. The objective of this attack is to seize none other than Venezuela's strategic resources. 200 years of independence, the people and their legitimate government stand firmly in defense of sovereignty. Since 1811, the Venezuela's confronted and defeated empires when foreign powers bombarded our shores in 1902. Apparently some Chinese officials were in Venezuela as of 4 hours ago. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, they've got an embassy. Mamdani's America. It doesn't matter. The UN's not going to do anything for Venezuela here. Neither is China. It's pretty much just us and them, you know?
But again, we did not hear from President Trump today. We have not heard from him since New Year's Eve. But it is notable, again, that the president was talking about wanting peace. And last year, Chanley, the U.S. struck 7 different countries around the world. That does not include the dozens of strikes.
Yeah, but he did stop 8 wars, so.
In the Caribbean, Eastern Pacific against those alleged drug boats. And we've been seeing this build up, and
they took down live UA map.
Very rarely.
Can you confirm that?
Do they stand down? And we haven't seen any reports of U.S. military forces going home. We've seen a few flights return, but again,
I don't think they took it down. I think that the website is currently crashing because 50 billion people are looking at it.
It's been this daily ramp up to this moment in.
Oh, yeah, it just loaded for me. Maduro denounces imperialist aggression. Yeah. What do you think sanctions on the U.S. will look like? I don't. Why do you think other countries won't do shit? Why would they? Doesn't Trump always say America has the most oil on earth? Why do we need Venezuelan oil? We don't. We don't need it. Nobody needs it. It's not even profitable to go after it. It would be cheaper right now to simply build more oil platforms off American shores than it would be to extract that oil from Venezuela. Like, there are oil companies in America right now are choosing not to do it here because it is not profitable enough to do so. So is it war for war's sake? Yes. What do you think sanctions on the U.S. will look like? As I just said, I don't. There will be no sanctions on the United States. What country is going to sanction the U.S.? Probably Venezuela. Maybe. God. Seriously, what was the last U.S. president that wasn't a war criminal? I mean, it really depends on your definition of war criminal, okay? It's just for MIC money, or do you literally mean no reason? I literally mean no reason. It's not going to make anyone money. Well, it's an excuse to divert resources towards the MIC, but they were doing that anyway. It really is for no reason. It's not new. Dying empires engage in fruitless, self-destructive wars all the time. It's like one of the main types of war, you know? I don't think it's an Epstein distraction because I really don't think Trump is orchestrating this. Again, Marco Rubio is probably a much more active aggressor here. I think it's just an inertial thing. They're demons and they want to expand, and they're all like bragging to each other about how they're going to do this and that. They're gonna you know, do all the based and red-pilled shit, all the stuff they've always talked about. They want to do it while Trump's in office because he's the only guy that would let them. They're jerking off right now. CBS confirmed Trump gave the order to strike. Well, okay, they'll say he gave the order. He has to officially give the order, right? He has to put down the big red stamp. They wouldn't do it literally without his involvement on any level. Do you think this will earn any points with Republicans? No. Unconfirmed attack in Maracaibo. There's an airbase there. I gotta wait for some evidence. So does nothing happen from here on out? You people really have to drop the cell phones. Your attention spans are crazy bad. Guys, there hasn't been a new bombing video in 5 minutes. Is it done? I think we saw this one. Oh, Jesus. That's probably a different angle on the shot we saw previously. Oh no, on your time, Reddit. That one got removed. It was probably fake. So it was a barrage from the beginning? No, this is from... this was from Iran and Israel, I think. Yeah, this is from... Yeah, no, this is different. Does this look like Venezuela to you? Different video. Oh, I want to get a feed going. NBC News has coverage? Oh, thank God.
Land strikes. But myself and many others thought that these would be strikes on, let's say an ELN drug base or, other loading docks, which the administration claims
Oh my God.
already. I didn't think it would go to urban Caracas. And I'm hearing from a source on the ground.
We thought they were going to engage in responsible illegal strikes on another nation for no reason. What? We didn't expect this, man. What the fuck? We thought he was going to be taking out all those cartels he was saying he was so concerned about.
They believe, Venezuelans believe, that it's been specifically military targets and bases hit just in these past few hours, and that there are helicopters over the city, possibly U.S. ones. So that's all still unconfirmed, but I'm hearing that from my sources. And I think that that's, it really shows the level of escalation here.
What I'm trying to figure out how to word this question to you, Will. I want to ask, what would make the U.S. administration target urban Caracas versus just military sites?
So I think two things. One, it could be that they don't actually want to remove Nicolás Maduro as much as they say that, but they're trying to rattle him to the greatest extent possible and get him to settle to some kind of extraordinary deal. That's a possibility. The other is that they're really trying to oust him from power, and that they have gone after perhaps members of his inner circle. They may have tried to eliminate Maduro himself. I mean, we really don't know at this point. But the fact that they're going after military bases in Caracas, where high-ranking regime figures could be, I think shows that
maybe it's the capital.
What some people have called not a regime change operation, but a regime collapse operation, just trying to take out the people in power.
Historically, always a phenomenal idea, by the way. Just something that, as they say, nature loves a vacuum. That always works out really well.
What do you make of the fact that we have not heard yet from the White House or the Pentagon, when traditionally we may have heard any sort of announcement after those strikes took place?
Unfortunately, I mean, this is the least surprising part of this, because it follows the script we've seen from this White House for months now with this campaign, right? I mean, they've barely gone to Congress. They've really not given a clear accounting to the U.S. public why we're doing this. The reasons shift all the time. I think even for the administration itself, the justification is constantly shifted.
USS Gerald R. Ford diverted from Europe. We've seen deployments of U.S. Air Force F-35 stealth fighter jets to Puerto Rico, including the Green Mountain Boys from Vermont. We've seen U.S. Marines training in Trinidad, just 7 miles off the coast of Venezuela, installing radar there. You've also seen almost daily shows of force from those Super Hornets aboard the Ford, flying off the coast in international airspace of Venezuela with their transponders on. What was notable tonight, Eric, is those transponders were off. We did not see any U.S. military aircraft squawking or at least identifying themselves publicly. Their presence was felt when these explosions were heard on the ground, Eric.
Have any information on our forces, on any targets and this sort of thing, if there have been casualties or anything from the ground, or it's just too early?
Right now, those reports, appears too early. We're seeing, along with everybody else, these dramatic explosions in Venezuela's capital. We're told that these are military targets and also targets associated with the cartels, which, of course, Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro is now a sanctioned leader. There's a $50 million bounty on his head. We've seen an organization.
Extremely legal, normal thing the United States can do, by the way.
Sanctioned. We've seen dozens of attacks against these alleged drug boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific in recent weeks. And it was just a few days ago here at Mar-a-Lago that the president confirmed the U.S. launched the first strike against Venezuela from the Central Intelligence Agency, a drone strike against Maduro's drug trade on the docks in Venezuela. That was the first confirmed strike that President Trump made. Recall, Eric, this has been a long time coming. The last time we heard from President Trump talking about strikes in Venezuela was on December 22nd, just before Christmas. He's been saying for weeks that he is going to...
The cartels, what they're going to put forward as a justification for this? Are we being for real? Yeah, it seems like it does not speak well to the base of support this administration is going to get in this invasion, if even their cheerleaders over at Fox News are being like, well, it might not be us, we don't really know the details.
perhaps Iran, because if in the back and forth of the rhetoric, it was if the Iranian regime was trying to use in an asymmetric fashion a terrorist attack against the United States, and they were using their assets that they have in Venezuela, that could have been a trigger for this. If, say, the Venezuelans were preparing to attack U.S. forces, that could have been a preemptive strike against those forces as well. But the most interesting one, which also I think needs to be considered, is that it could be an internal or the cartels themselves trying to rise up to take out Maduro.
It's the cartels sending a bunch of Chinook helicopters to do a bombing run over Caracas. Yeah, man. Just classic. Down, 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 down,
or internal, a military coup, much not unlike how Hugo Chavez first tried to come to power. So all of the above still in the cards. The only losers in the end of this, if the regime actually collapses, is the Chinese, the Russians, and the Iranians at the end of the day. And the Venezuelan people, I think, no matter what happens, I think they will have a better future free of this narco state that they've been living under for the last couple of decades.
Yeah, you just raised something really fascinating. A narco state. What if it is the cartels? Would a cartel puppet take over, or would how could that potentially play out if indeed this is from the cartels or an internal coup?
I mean, yes, Maduro's been, in the last day, for the second time, at least publicly, we know, he's offered to sell out the cartels. He's offered to sell out the Russians and the Chinese to cut a deal to survive, to save his own neck with the United States, and President Trump hasn't been.
Just a phenomenal lack of competence from these people, Like, not the guy you want repping Fox News at 3 a.m. Eastern time when the bombs start going off in Caracas, yeah, who do we have live with the broadcast right as the bombs started dropping? Yeah, we had a guy who was coping and pretending that it was some kind of internal coup. Not too proud of this, huh?
So, he certainly is not making friends on his side, and I think that's a very distinct possibility that can't be ruled out. And if, in fact, the cartels are the ones and they're able to put in a new power broker, what's going to have to happen is, with all the pressure that's been brought to bear on the cartel networks because of the attacks on their transit and logistics, their ships at sea, they're going to need the help of the Russians, the Chinese, and the Iranians. And it'll be a really big question to see what we wake up to in the next few hours, what comes out of Moscow and Beijing and Tehran on this issue. It'll be very enlightening.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Good morning, Eric.
Can't wait to have a fucking aneurysm all day tomorrow, watching every single news outlet in America refuse to say anything negative about this. It's going to be like light criticism from MSNBC. Every, CNN, New York Times, CBS, whatever, they're all going to be hemming and hawing over it. Well, they were like a cartel narco state. So in a way, it is like self-defense. Schumer comes out. He's mainly angry that he wasn't informed beforehand.
Major escalation of the conflict between the United States and Venezuela. U.S. officials
Not a conflict between America and Venezuela. It's just us bombing them, dog. It really wasn't a back and forth.
Confirmed to Fox News that U.S. military strikes have been launched against Venezuela early this morning. We've seen for a few hours now these scenes of explosions in Venezuela's capital of Caracas against U.S. military targets. Officials say the U.S. military launched this attack on Venezuela on the orders of President Trump. And we are awaiting a statement from the White House and a Truth Social post, perhaps, from the president confirming. But we've seen dramatic video in the last hour showing explosions in Venezuela targeting Nicolas Maduro's military sites. We've seen video of U.S. Army helicopters flying over Venezuela, and this all comes after this dramatic buildup of the U.S. military in the Caribbean in recent months. You had the aircraft. Good morning, Eric.
Tonight, do you think that? And what message tonight do you think that they're receiving in Tehran and Moscow and Beijing?
You better watch out, because President Trump is serious. And I think that, as we've seen with some of the actions and words around Tehran, that President Trump is the first president in...
Is it just me, or have reporters gotten worse at speaking cogently on air over the years? The entire ruling class of America has been increasingly addled with time. Whether it be inebriation, drugs, pedophilia, or incest, I have no idea, but the collective conscience of the American ruling class has dissolved into a sludge. However evil they are now, I promise you one thing, and one thing for sure, because they were plenty evil back 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, but any newsman or any politician from the 1960s could run circles around ours today. Just politicians and newsmen, not people generally. I'm not saying the average guy from 1960 was smarter than the average guy today. I'm saying the average, CBS host, definitely CBS, from the 60s could just lap anyone working at the, anyone presenting from CBS today.
Quite a long time to make a difference in Iran with his strong reaction, his support of Israel, his strong reaction to the Iranian regime, increasing their efforts in enriching uranium and things like that. He bombed Tehran, of course, and bombed military sites there. President Trump is showing to the world, to the enemies of the United States and the enemies of the West, that he is serious and that he will take action when necessary.
And what message tonight do you think that they're receiving in Tehran and Moscow and Beijing?
You better watch out, because President Trump is serious. And I think that as we've seen with some of the actions and words around Tehran, that President Trump is the first president in quite a long time to make a difference in Iran with his strong reaction, his support of Israel, his strong reaction to the Iranian regime, increasing their efforts in enriching uranium and things like that. He bombed Tehran.
He already said that line. I know, it repeated. I just can't. So this is right by the ship that was bombed, I assume? Even when it's America, they make it about Israel. Think of this as a statement to the American ruling class. What he's essentially saying is, I know a lot of you are concerned about what's going on right now, but remember, as bad as it seemed at the time, what Trump did with Iran bombing their nuclear nuclear weapons facilities, that turned out fine. That did not disrupt hegemony. It did not get in the way of the powers that be. So assume this is going to be the same. That's the message.
Of any injuries, what are your sources hearing in terms of anybody nearby that's been hurt?
Again, this is very preliminary. No reports of any injuries just yet. There are also no confirmed reports, according to this source, of any military response by the Maduro government. This is, again, an analyst that I've spoken to many times about the situation on the ground in Venezuela. The source is also telling me that a coastal air facility in Miranda State was reportedly struck, the Higuerote Airport. And according to this source, there have been some witnesses that have reported Army Chinooks, special operation helicopters operating over the area. Again, not confirmed, but that's according to this source, citing eyewitnesses there on the ground. The information is very fluid here, and as is the case in these types of operations, the situation could dramatically change at any point, or we could find out new information that perhaps these initial eyewitness reports weren't correct. But at this point, according to this source, according to eyewitnesses on the ground, it does appear that multiple military installations may have been the targets of these airstrikes. And it bears repeating once again, for those just joining us, we have yet to hear from the White House or the Pentagon for any confirmation that it was the U.S. government, although...
Not having any statement prep from the Pentagon is absolutely fucking insane, by the way. I have no idea what is going on over there. The idea of them doing this midnight invasion and not having like an immediate press briefing to like assume control. The crazy thing is our media is so complacent that they're going to let it roll. Like every good little boy, every little fucking dog of the US establishment working at CNN, whatever, are going to be waiting there hand and knee for the narrative to repeat as soon as they get it from Trump on Truth Social or from Hegseth from the Pentagon. There will be no consequences for the Pentagon refusing to immediately take control of the narrative.
Venezuela's government is already blaming the U.S. for this series of airstrikes.
Gabe Gutierrez continued reporting for us regarding the situation in Venezuela right now. Gabe, we really appreciate it. Gabe, we appreciate it. We're going to have you stand by for just a moment. Just reminding people that this all started just before 2 a.m. local Venezuelan time. Let's go back to Richard Engel. Richard?
Very interesting what Gabe was talking about, potential targets, main military site in Caracas, other locations, mountain sites around the city, a strong indication that this was a coordinated attack.
Really?
That this was something that had a high degree of planning.
Oh, that's cool. It wasn't just random. We didn't just randomly march the correspondents. They have nothing to say. Because the only thing there is to say about this really is, holy shit, this is fucking insane. But they can't say that because they have to sanewash everything the administration does. So instead they're like, yes, it seems they deliberately piloted those helicopters into Caracas. It wasn't an accident.
We're still awaiting the ultimate confirmation, but it seems like it would only be the United States that would do something like this, considering the context, considering the boat strikes, considering the land strikes in a remote area a couple of weeks ago. A major escalation targeting the Maduro regime, targeting the military. It is, of course, the military that sustains Maduro. Maduro's a dictator. He's considered illegitimate by most of the world. He won an election that has been widely discredited. The military helps keep him in power. Now targeting the military directly, a sign to the military that they could lose if they continue to back Maduro. So the situation has clearly...
Right, they're all in the same camp, man. It doesn't matter how much they pretend otherwise. They're all in the same camp, offering defenses of the invasion for literally no reason here. Oh yeah, Maduro wasn't like democratic enough, so basically it was like fine that we invaded him, you know? The implicit suggestion being that we have the moral right and obligation to engage in military action against every country that doesn't meet our standards of good democracy. America's certainly not a perfect democracy. I'm preaching to the choir.
Escalated, not just a war against drugs, because let's not forget this campaign against Venezuela is being sold as a war against narcotics, against fentanyl, even though it's mostly cocaine that comes out of Venezuela, and not even that much. Most of it comes from other areas, Colombia, etc. But it is being sold as a war on drugs. Now, if you're talking about direct military strikes on on military strikes directly on military targets that sustain the regime, that goes beyond just a war against drug traffickers, a war against small boats carrying relatively small amounts of narcotics, allegedly. So this is a message that the regime will not be able to ignore any longer.
Richard, let's stay on that point that you're making there about a message. We spoke earlier with Will Freeman, the fellow for Latin American Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations, and one thing he mentioned was, of course, we can't speculate what that next step might be by the Trump administration, but he did say that any success here would have to come with boots on the ground. Are you hearing from any of your sources?
Didn't he literally shoot protesters and seize power using military cartel force? Yeah. What the fuck does that have to do with our invasion? I mean, that's my point. It's literally irrelevant. There's no correlation here. Unless your argument is, like, if a country is not a democracy, we get to invade them. And if you believe that, you should just say that up front rather than ineptly offering this as an implicit excuse for our war crimes.
about any, not potential that that would be any sort of impending next step, but just the possibility of that even being a consideration by the administration at some point?
Consideration, everything is undoubtedly under consideration, and the Pentagon plans for every scenario in every conflict. So I'm sure they do have a plan for boots on the ground, but no one that I've talked to has considered that as or suggested to me that is a real possibility. The absolute preference would be economic pressure, and Venezuela is already under tremendous economic pressure from the United States. But as we've seen in other parts of the world,
and it's done so much to liberate that
Ukraine,
country.
Economic sanctions only go so far. We've seen it with Iran. Iran
only
is one of
goes
the
so
sanctioned
far.
countries
Clearly,
in the
we need to go
world,
farther.
Yet it continues to find allies in other parts of the world, and China and Russia, other parts of the so-called global South, help sustain it. Same thing with North Korea. North Korea is sanctioned, but it finds ways with Russia and China and other allies to keep its economy moving. So the next pressure campaign is or has been military strikes. Boats on land, potentially now in Caracas.
All just totally natural, unavoidable. Oh yeah, the next step obviously would be military strikes, just killing people. You know, if you don't like a government, right? Like you sanction them, and then you just bomb them. It just happens, right?
Boots on the ground, American troops occupying a territory is a entirely different kind of conflict. That would be Americans there trying to bring in and sustain a new government, and no one has suggested to me that is under active consideration. Although, as I mentioned, anytime you're involved in military planning, you have options from A to Z, but I've never heard that considered as a realistic option.
Yeah, Richard, thank you for that. If what we are seeing tonight regarding this potential escalation, even though it has not yet been confirmed by the White House or the Pentagon yet, these strikes or explosions, if this is being considered a mass...
We got to wait, hands and knees. We got to wait for our masters over at D.C. to tell us what to believe. Oh yeah, it's been over an hour, and we have like overwhelming confirmation, not only from video footage, but also we know that the White House ordered these strikes. Well, let's wait for the Pentagon to explicitly confirm it. You know, it's not like we're journalists after all. It's not like our job is to determine the truth. We just repeat what the government says. It's like how local news does nothing other than report on and regurgitate police statements.
Escalation. Certainly, any other scenario beyond that would be inconceivable at this point. We wouldn't want to speculate for that. Richard Engel, we appreciate your reporting, chief foreign correspondent for us, and we'll have you stand by to continue to give us. Okay, now we're going to bring in Ana Vanessa Herrera. She is a journalist based in Caracas. We want to hear from her now on her experience, what she's hearing, what she's seeing. Ana, do I have you?
Yes, I'm here. How are you?
Ana, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. First of all, how are you, and are you safe?
So far, yes, we are safe. We're in the eastern side of Caracas, and apparently all the strikes or alleged strikes are happening in the part of the eastern side, but also in the center of Caracas.
Okay, tell me what you're learning so far, whether it's from people you know or what you've experienced directly.
Alleged, who knows? Maybe she and everyone else hallucinated it. Reminding you guys that there is nothing legally that prevents them from saying that these were strikes, that the president ordered them, that the White House did this, that Trump is lying, that Trump is a pedophile, etc., etc. All of these news agencies, there is no risk of litigation. Donald Trump has sued news agencies for flatly telling the empirical truth. Whether or not he sues you has nothing to do with whether or not you buffer your statements with allegedly.
Yes, well, it all started, I'm going to start with what I experienced, what I witnessed. It started around 2 a.m. Local time. I heard a very large bang, an explosion.
Allegedly.
And all the windows started vibrating, all the windows shaking, not only on my apartment, but the rest of the area as well. And immediately after that, I witnessed a large a tower of smoke coming from what looked like the center of Caracas. And then, bright lights and other explosions. What I was hearing most was the sound of what I believe were aircrafts or helicopters flying
Might have been, who knows,
above,
right?
The capital city. And immediately when I started witnessing that, I received reports from other colleagues, family members, friends, known ones that were seeing and hearing exactly the same in different parts of Caracas. Also, just minutes later, maybe half an hour later, I started seeing reports of exactly the same thing, but on the coastal area of Venezuela, in La Guaira, specifically in the port of La Guaira, which is the main port of Venezuela, where all ships and cargo arrives. And there are videos that are not confirmed yet because we have no confirmations of specifically each video that we're looking at that was being shared on WhatsApp, on Twitter, on social media. We have no confirmation of that, but there's a specific video that's shown in La Guaira. I could recognize the streets of La Guaira. I don't know when that was recorded, at what time, but you can see the devastation of the port of La Guaira, what was left after that bombing. And also something very that is common between all of the reportings and my own experience is that people are very scared and nervous about not only what's happening, but what is going to happen next.
Allegedly.
Do you have family in that area? Have you been able to speak to them?
Nowhere in any of this analysis is there any condemnation of the actions of the United States. You think you learn from past mistakes, like everyone condemns Vietnam now, everyone condemns Iraq, but no, just the same thing over and over and over again. You get here now, and I mean, it really makes me sympathize with my parents back in 2003, because of course at the time I was 9 years old. But my parents watching news and watching as every single broadcaster fell in line with the Bush administration, and these people who had LARPed as liberals before all shifted into this fence-sitting, neutral, moderated language on Saddam Hussein and weapons of mass destruction and everything as they all fell in line with the administration.
If you do, and are they safe?
They're all safe, and my family, my friends, they're all safe and around the area. I worry for the people that are near the military bases that were allegedly attacked, and I repeat allegedly because we don't have specific confirmation of any casualties or material devastation from any authority, not only government authorities, but also from local authorities. We have no confirmation from the firemen or police in any of the municipalities that were hit by whatever is happening right now.
And I know we have heard of reports of loss of power. Have you seen that from your own experience?
Yes, I witnessed from where I'm standing. You can see behind me there's like a small mountain, and on the other side at my right there is I'm sorry, I'm just getting a lot of reports right now, so there's a lot of information that's coming. So I just need to be very clear that there is no confirmation on what is happening and what happened after the detonations from any authority so far. So I was telling you at my right, I have a clear view of part of a working class neighborhood of Petare and part of the center of Caracas. And both areas are still without any electricity. There were reports of electricity failures and blackouts, not only in La Guaira, which is the port of Venezuela, but also in the places nearby military bases, La Carlota and the...
What's wrong with her? It's not just her. It's literally all media. Here is the statement you should be looking for. America bombs Venezuelan capital. Do you see it here? Explosions reported in Venezuelan capital Caracas. Wow, who did it? Live, Venezuela's capital hit by explosions. Caracas blames the U.S. Oh, so they're the ones who say we did it? Well, they're biased. Venezuela's government accuses U.S. of attacking civilian military installations in multiple states. Well, they said it. I mean, I don't know if it's true. My understanding is that journalism is about uncovering the truth. I don't know why you're not saying what they did. Venezuela's capital rocked by explosions as aircraft fly over city. Aircraft, really? What aircraft? Aircraft, really? You're missing a designation here. That's interesting. Multiple explosions rock Venezuelan capital Caracas. Venezuela says it rejects military aggression by the U.S., again, framing this as an opinion issue, as though it's Venezuela's judgment that they're being bombed by the U.S., as though that's not like an objective fact. At least 7 explosions in low-flying aircraft are heard in Venezuela's Caracas. Really? Which low-flying aircraft? Live updates, explosions reported in Venezuela's capital, Caracas. It's all of them. It's all of them. It's all of them. It's all of them. All the time. It's all of them. Every single one. I found one that says it. It's a rogue CBS staffer. Okay, Barry Weiss is asleep. She had a hard day of sending 3 emails, and she's no longer awake to monitor the people beneath her. And we got one of them going crazy. Crazy style right now. I love you, but I gently disagree. It's still early hours, so responsible reporting is to maintain some lack of 100% certainty. Nah, bullshit. That literally nothing about good journalism requires you to not report on what is known to be the truth because you're hemming and hawing over it. And also, Trump is litigious even if you cross your T's and dot your I's. Trump is litigious even if you tell only the factual truth. Trump sued CBS over deceptively editing the 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. They then released the full interview. There were no deceptive edits, and then they settled the lawsuit for money anyway. No, you cannot capitulate to this administration.
Venezuelans have had for the longest time. Electricity, communications, internet connection has been very poor for years now. So, of course, if something like this happened, we could expect, communications coming, not only being blocked, but collapsing.
Yeah, and Anna, you mentioned taking all of this into context of the history of the region and the government. And I just want to remind anyone watching at home that the government of Venezuela has responded. So I want to reread that one more time. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela rejects, condemns, and denounces before the international community the extremely serious military aggression perpetrated by the current government of the United States of America against Venezuelan territory and population in the civilian and military areas of the city of Caracas, the capital of the republic, and the states of Miranda, Aragua, and La Guaira. This act constitutes a flagrant violation of the United Nations Charter, especially Articles 1 and 2, which enshrine respect for sovereignty, the legal equality of the states, and the prohibition of the use of force. Such aggression threatens the international peace and stability, specifically in Latin America and the Caribbean, and places the lives of millions of people at grave risk. And I apologize. I think we lost our reporter there on the ground, Ana
That's
Vanessa
fucking
Herrero.
Ominous.
Okay, Ana, we have you. We have you back. We're going to go back out to Ana here as soon as we can. Want to let everybody know at this hour. Ana, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great.
Right.
So just kind of re-examining this statement that was put out just within the last hour by the government of Venezuela. What's your reaction?
I'm sorry. I think I lost that last part. Can you?
Yes, just hearing from the reaction from the government of Venezuela within the last hour. Of course, we haven't received confirmation from the White House or the Pentagon regarding these strikes or these explosions, but the government of Venezuela is pointing the finger toward the United States, strongly condemning these explosions. What's your reaction?
Well, it's only natural that they understand that they would point to the United States, because this would mean.
Oh my God. Oh my God, dude. I don't have the fucking constitution for this. I'm failing my saves. Oh my fucking God. Oh my God. It's crazy. It's like, at least, okay, one thing you could say, and this is not meant to be a defense or an explanation of their behavior, but if you were a German propaganda minister in 1941 and you did not toe the party line, they would shoot you. But today, any and every one of these journalists, quote unquote journalists, could just say the truth, and the absolute worst thing that could happen to them would be what happened to Mehdi Hassan, being let go by MSNBC for being too based on the Israeli genocide. Like, the worst thing that could happen to them is a change of profession. No one is coming after them in the night. Nobody is blackbagging them. And they still, all of them, still choose to do this. Of course they blame America, those fucking losers. Oh my God.
That the next phase that Donald Trump was announcing just a month ago is already happening. Of course, as you said, we need confirmation from the White House and from Donald Trump. And
I don't know if Venezuela is the safest place to speak your mind right now. But the mind I want her to speak is saying that America is at fault for the bombing. That's probably a really safe position to take in Venezuela. If anything, the position she's taking is the one you would assume would be more dangerous in Venezuela.
Administration to, absolutely confirm that this is the situation. But I think that the government of Nicolas Maduro would know if this was something orchestrated from inside or an attack coming from the United States.
Jesus fucking Christ. Of course, any U.S. correspondent in Venezuela would obviously be a massive fucking Hitlerite. Right? Like, they're not gonna, anybody that would accept an American paycheck from within Venezuela is gonna be one of those bitches who's like, I can't wait for our Nobel Peace Prize winning resistance leader to take control of the country so the nation can be opened up to American capital investment, right? Like, they're not gonna be real journalists.
With the amount of videos that are running around social media, it's just overwhelming. And so we don't really know which one it was recorded when, but every video shows the same thing over and over: loud explosions, a lot of planes, or what we believe are planes flying above the coastal area and the capital city of Caracas. And the Venezuelan government just issuing the statement, for me, is absolute confirmation that they know that this is coming from a source different from an internal break. And I think that was the confirmation they were waiting for. They took a while to confirm, and we haven't seen them or heard from them. We just read the statement. And there are, I repeat, reports of a lot of things happening, allegedly. We have no confirmation where Nicolas Maduro is right now. We don't know. We haven't seen him. We haven't heard from him. But we wouldn't wait for that to be the case, so that we definitely confirm what happened. I'm sure that if
these people get so much money for this dreck,
something happened and they can talk about it, they will give all the details. But I think that this confirms that the escalation of the conflict came to a point that Venezuela was not really expecting. Just days before, we saw Nicolás Maduro dancing, celebrating not only New Year's, Christmas, and before that, celebrating and saying that this was only a psychological war, but this was not a serious threat. But just a day ago, after what Trump announced was the first strike that allegedly happened in El Zulia, in the area, the Zulia area, the region close to Colombia, and that President Petro, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, later confirmed. He changed the narrative, and he said that he was ready to seriously speak and talk to Donald Trump and to welcome new investments, U.S. investments. If they wanted the oil, then he could negotiate that as well.
I hope Maduro wins and arrests this woman. Jesus fucking Christ, man.
With new investments. So he changed the narrative, but he kept dancing and celebrating. So I don't really believe that they saw this coming, because I'm sure that that wouldn't be the speech if they knew that.
Saw this coming? I thought we don't know for sure that America did it. What the fuck? She knows perfectly well America did it, obviously. She's just throwing out any defense of the invasion she can.
This was going to happen.
Ana Vanessa Herrero reporting for us directly from Caracas. Ana, I appreciate your reporting, and please stay safe there. If you can, stand by for us. We will have more questions for you coming up, no doubt. But first, I would like to go back to NBC News senior producer Geraldine Coles-Azokar, who we spoke with earlier, whose family is there in Caracas. Geraldine, you've got some new information for us. What can you tell us?
Yeah, hi, Corey. Just to recap what we talked earlier, I talked to my brother who lives in the same neighborhood as Fortuna. They experienced, the first bombardment, smell the smoke. There were several sort of like explosions, and they knew that it was inside of
CBS and BBC have reported U.S. officials confirmed Trump ordered the strikes. Yeah, of course, but we don't want to acknowledge that yet. We want to hold off on that acknowledgement for as long as possible.
Military base, or that's what they say.
And they haven't heard from any emergency service.
Saw that one.
En el puerto, papá. Bien visible, mija. Boom.
This is the ship that was struck.
Sí, míralo. Dios mío. En la casa de Guipúzcoa, mira. Santo Dios. Vete para acá, mamá. Vete para acá, mamá. ¡A mi silla, cuidado! ¡Dios mío santo! ¡Va esto! ¡Tía, mira los misiles! Marico, ¿no viste los que están cayendo? La casa de Guipúzcoa. Cayó en la casa de Guipúzcoa uno, mira, y hay otro. Mira, son otros. ¿Dónde? Allá, para allá, no sé.
I think he said that's all of our fentanyl. Thank you, God Emperor Trump, for taking out that threat to the United States. Korean newspaper says U.S. ground troops are in operation. Reuters apparently reported, then deleted the claim. We might have to wait a little bit for evidence. Power and internet have been knocked out in a lot of Caracas, and also, if there are troops on the ground right now, they would be in a military airport. There wouldn't be civilians recording in there.
Services yet either.
I don't want to hear defense of U.S. soldiers, by the way. Dude, that fuck-ass OS Int account on Twitter said, hold on, let me find the exact tweet so I can read it out loud or just put it on screen. Some people need to realize it doesn't matter how weak the Venezuelan armed forces are. There is a possibility that Americans could be killed tonight in Venezuela. A high possibility if ground operations are indeed underway in Caracas. Pray for these men and women. Keep the well-being of the real victims of this illegal demon invasion in your thoughts and prayers, okay? Who runs OSINT? Oh, it's those NAFO fucks, you know. Goddamn deep state pieces of shit. Russians could be dying in Ukraine. You consider that? Yeah. No, I know.
Caracas, so people are very familiar with going and being like sort of stockpiling, if you will, a little bit whatever they can find and whatever they can afford, to be very honest. So yeah, they sort of been preparing a little bit for this, you know, without knowing that this was actually going to happen.
You know, earlier we were speaking to...
You should know that OSINT Defender account was the one bitching Trump would not bomb Iran to defend Venezuela. He's mega Zionist. Yeah, obviously. It was the same thing. You saw this pattern with a bunch of those associated accounts who were like super, super pro-Ukraine. And then it turns out they're not actually like against fascism. They're only in favor of Ukraine because they're in favor of Western military hegemony. They just don't like Russia, right? They defended Israel genociding Palestinians, and they're now going to defend, many of them are going to defend or attempt to defend American involvement in Venezuela, as they did in Iran, you know.
Chief Foreign Correspondent Richard Engel for NBC News, who said his sources didn't say exactly, but they were alluding to that this would be a regime change operation. And with all of the reporting that Gabe Gutierrez had given us from his source about the possible targets of these strikes, of these alleged strikes, Richard Engels said that he believed that there was a strong indication that this was a coordinated attack. And of course, we did hear in the last, I would say, hour from the government of Venezuela strongly condemning this and pointing to the United States, even though we have not received confirmation about these explosions.
Oh my fucking God. Oh my God, this is a live feed. It's been known for over an hour now. It's been confirmed by multiple outlets. This is NBC News, man.
Whether or not this was an operation that was carried out by the United States. What is your reaction to the Venezuelan government's statement they put out? And has your family heard that? Have they had any reaction to that?
No, the only thing that they've heard is that sort of like there is an order, and I'm trying to think of the name in English right now. There's an order of people staying in their homes. That's the only thing they sort of reported that they've heard. I don't actually know what like Maduro's reaction is going to be to this. I honestly have no idea what they're thinking or how they're going to sort of respond back to.
Great. So it's late at night. Breaking news comes at you fast. Hey, get anyone we can on the phone. Oh yeah, here's Geraldine Coles Ezokar or whatever, senior producer. Does she have anything to say? Fucking nope. What do you think's gonna happen, lol? Jesus Christ, they're pitching questions at her like their chat. You guys, do you think there's gonna be a draft? Just throw in anything. Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna react. I don't really know.
Explosions.
I'm sure this is incredibly confusing. The fact that we're hearing that your family is saying that there's possibly a stay-in-place order or an emergency order for people to stay in and shelter in is more than we had heard before. So that is an update there. Is there anything else that you think is important to know at this hour, Geraldine?
Not really. I'll keep working the phones and see what else I can find out, and hopefully we can continue to report what's happening in the ground.
We appreciate it. We'll continue to do the same on our end, and we hope your family stays safe. Thank you so much for your insight. Geraldine Coles Ezokar, she's an NBC News producer, and no doubt we will be talking to you again, Geraldine, I'm sure. If you're just tuning in, we are on the air right now for breaking news. A couple hours ago at just before 2 a.m. local Venezuelan time, local Caracas time, locals there had reported hearing and seeing explosions. And
go watch
at
the
this
BBC
point,
feed,
we
then
are
link
reporting alleged strikes or explosions in the city of Caracas. We have seen and heard directly from our reporters on the ground that there is a loss of power in parts of the city, and our expert reporters that we've been speaking to around the country and around the world have.
Now let's see how Al Jazeera is doing.
Sailing forward and backwards.
Oh, whoops. I closed the wrong tab. Let's try that again.
People accuse the government in Venezuela of giving Chevron too many concessions, but this is crucial in terms of what role oil will play in this situation. The other thing is important, and I'm sorry to divert a bit from your question, is it's important to know what the opposition in Venezuela is going to do, how they are going to react to this.
Let me check BBC.
You, there's not much that you can do to defend yourself, but
Big
also
sideburns.
I would reiterate that if what's going on is just that the country is being bombarded, then that doesn't necessarily change in a self-evident way the sustainability of the regime. Can it foster an internal rebellion? Well, in principle, it could. And yes, that can happen, but we haven't seen any signs of it yet. We haven't seen any pronouncements, for example, of rebel military officers.
And Francisco, I want to pick up on another aspect of the statement that's come from the Venezuelan government, where they talk about how this threatens international peace and stability and denounce it before the international community. How do you think the international community is likely to react to this, given how divided it is about the Venezuelan government?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. I mean, by and large, Venezuela is right when it says that. I mean, the U.S. is carrying out an attack in Venezuelan territory. It's a violation of the territorial integrity. And furthermore, there's no declaration of war, nor is there even a clear motive, because even though there's a lot of reasons to be against Nicolás Maduro, it's also the case, and it's quite interesting, that the motives that President Trump has given have to do with alleged involvement in drug trafficking, have to do with Maduro being accused of emptying Venezuelan prisons to send migrants to the U.S., which there's really no evidence of Venezuela stealing oil from the U.S., which is also, let's say, a very tendentious interpretation of Venezuelan history. Venezuela nationalized its oil industry in 19.
Why do you have to platform breakthrough news on X? You could have found the same clip from a non-tanky account. What the fuck are you talking about? Platform? Do you mean like I retweeted a clip? What the fuck are you talking about? Shut the fuck up, fucking nerd. Get back in the goddamn closet, you stupid piece of shit. I'm shoving you in there, okay? I'm shoving you in I'm shoving you in a locker in a high school hallway right now, and not one of those full length like toe to head lockers. I'm talking one of those that get split into thirds vertically, okay? I'm cramming you in there.
Ridiculous. Many allies, but it's still, but I think that on balance, for example, Latin America, the idea that the U.S. can effectively bombard or invade a Latin American country is something that is much more likely to generate repudiation than support in Latin America. So I think that the U.S. is going to lose some points, and also in Europe, in the international community. Now, will that matter in the end? I mean, the only body which could, in principle, do something is the United Nations. And as we know, the U.S. has a veto in the UN Security Council. So
yeah, that shit ain't happening. Sorry, I find the U.S. manufacturing consent angle a lot more interesting than sensible analysis from a foreigner. Also, it's not like Keir Starmer's going to do shit, so who fucking cares?
On your screen, but we have no confirmation of any injuries, no confirmation of the whereabouts of Nicolás Maduro, no indication what his...
Look at how sane they are over there in Britain. It's not like they're arresting 87-year-old pensioners for holding up a sign saying they don't think it's polite for Israel to massacre Arabs, you know?
Will do next, and no indication on what the president's President Trump's reaction might be to what transpired overnight.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, Gabe, how the fact that as the moments continue to pass, as we are reporting on this breaking news, the silence from the White House and the Pentagon gets louder and louder. No doubt they are keeping abreast of any updates. So we continue to wait to hear from our government. Let's go now to our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel. Richard, what's the latest?
They're waking everyone up.
We're going to bring in Richard as soon as we get his signal up here in just a moment. But I want to.
I'm here, yes.
Oh, here we go. Hi, Richard. Take it away.
I'm sorry, I don't think you were hearing me. Yes, this is extraordinary details that are coming in. The report you had, the witness report in Caracas, as she was describing what she thought were low-flying aircraft or helicopters, explosions in multiple parts of the country. This can only be a coordinated strike. But the main question that I have at this moment is this just the beginning? Is this a message to Maduro and his inner circle, because apparently they had not been getting the message that the Trump administration was trying to deliver, or is this the start of a continuing campaign? And I think that will only become clear not by the statements from U.S. officials. Well, that will be an indication, but by what happens tonight, tomorrow. Will there be a follow-on military campaign? Because multiple coordinations, the sounds of helicopters and aircraft flying low, explosions are at and around military sites. That's a coordinated military strike. That is
this attack could have been an email
change operation level, not counter narcotics operation. We're still awaiting official confirmation, but if you look at all of the indications here, there are very few countries that have the ability to do this, that have the will to do this. This is an escalation, and the question I have at this moment is, will there be more strikes tonight, or was this I don't want to say one-off, because there's already been strikes on boats and there's already been a land strike in a remote part of the country, but was this just one more escalatory step to try and convince the Maduro regime to leave power, or is this the start of a sustained military campaign to drive them from power?
Now, Richard, I have a question for you in response.
All I know for sure, all I'm absolutely confident on, is that this is not the end. If we just wanted to do a bombing run, why not drones? We sent fucking helicopters in. Right now, there are U.S. Special Forces at the military airport. It is just a question of what they are waiting to receive. That's it. That's it. That's all we're waiting on. There is no reason to send transport helicopters in if you are only interested in doing a bombing run. That makes no sense at all. They have to be occupying something. The Venezuelan military is just MIA. They're asleep or some shit. They don't want to fight American special forces. Jesus Christ. Can you imagine? Like, fuck, not to... Again, people make comparisons to Iraq, but the Iraqi military was much, much, much better armed than the Venezuelan military, you know? They don't want to do that. It is also 4 in the morning. Oh, yeah, they're sleepy. They're also sleepy. That's true. They are sleepy. Big time EP. I will say they could have done a rapid strike and left by now. But again, why transport helicopters? If they wanted to do a bombing run, why not use drones? Much easier, safer, faster, more effective. Show of force, maybe? Nah. Losing U.S. servicemen, that's a huge risk. Remember how much Benghazi hurt Hillary Clinton? Remember how much the withdrawal from Afghanistan hurt Biden? Risking troops is a big deal. You wouldn't do that just for a show of force. I think they're occupying an airport. They're waiting to bring in reinforcements. That's my guess. I could be wrong. I just don't know why else they would do that.
To your question, because I agree. I think that's what we're all wondering at this hour. My question to you is, because we have not heard from the White House or the Pentagon, is that in itself a response?
No, it's I don't want to say a holiday period in the middle of the night, but it is also a holiday period in the middle of the night, and I think they're trying to calibrate their response. And there are also countries mediating. I know several officials who are directly involved in this process. This is not happening in a vacuum. When there have been...
I still don't understand what the plan is militarily. The U.S. would need much more troops. Are there troops they're ready to force? I could be completely off on this, but like, okay, it's U.S. Special Forces. For whatever our administration might be at the top in terms of like cognitive ability, these guys are actually pretty good, you know? It's U.S. Special Forces. They go in there, they take down communications, internet, and power. Half the city is now in the dark. It's impossible for anyone to communicate via anything other than radio, and even that's spotty sometimes, you know, depending on the area. And you have like maybe 100, 200 special forces that have occupied a military airport. All you would need to do is bring in a couple of planes full of people and equipment, and you could probably just you could do whatever you want, right? Like wasps getting into a beehive, you know? It doesn't matter if you're outnumbered. The difference in how well armed they are and how well trained they are is enormous. So it's possible that this is a decapitation thing, right? They're going for a high profile execution or assassination. But the fact that they brought a bunch of like transport helicopters in makes me think that the point of the occupation of the airport was to clear the strip so they could bring in more planes. And if the planes they're bringing in have more people and more equipment, I mean, what if they brought in a couple of tanks? You know? Like they could drop armor in the airport and just roll that wherever they wanted, you know? Not saying it's that simple. I'm just saying the difference here in the amount of equipment we have versus them is enormous. I think that's what they're doing. You can't hold land with just armor? Not for long, no. But you could probably hold the airport for a pretty long time. Like keep in mind they've taken out comms. And the Venezuelan military is extremely dysfunctional. They're not well coordinated at all. It wouldn't be like, if the Venezuelan military wanted to take back their airport, it wouldn't be like a coordinated, you know, all arms assault, you know, from the air and the sea and the ground at the same time, perfectly coordinated. It's basically ragtag. The Venezuelan military is worse, much more poorly coordinated and armed than the Viet Cong or the North Vietnamese or the Iraqi military. They're closer to the Taliban, honestly, than the Iraqi military in terms of equipment and training. The Taliban did fuck over the U.S. long term. Sure, in terms of like counterinsurgency, not in terms of like directly confronting U.S. troops. Why do you hate the Venezuelan military so much? Hey, listen, I'm rooting for their legal right to self-defense, okay?
Strikes carried out against the boats. There have also been negotiations. People have been, U.S. officials through intermediaries have been talking to the Maduro regime and made it clear that they want the Maduro regime, specifically President Maduro himself and his inner circle, to leave the country.
Does Venezuelan approval of regime change with the U.S. intervention change your opinions on any of this? No. For one, we're not doing this to liberate the Venezuelan people. And for two, the Venezuelan people do not want to be invaded by America. They just don't like Maduro, you know? I don't like Trump. I wouldn't want China to invade our shores either. By the way, like, if we wanted Venezuela to stop sucking, you know what we could do? Just do regular negotiations with Maduro. You know, the reason he's in bed with Russia and China is because they're the ones cutting him a deal, right? He was already engaging in negotiations with us. He was already capitulating. Just drop the sanctions, offer some aid, and do regular We're America. We have money. We have power. We could fix everything on earth if we wanted to. We don't have to make enemies of everyone. It's not as though we're offended by the fact that Maduro is a dictator. We're friends with Saudi Arabia.
Longer be in power. and they believe, the Trump administration believes, and others believe, that the Maduro regime is not only illegitimate, that it is backed by Cuban intelligence, that it is tied to the drug trade. They have been designated narco-terrorists, and they want them out. So, going back to why we haven't heard a statement yet, it's also very likely that in addition to the public statements,
Maduro packed the courts, Vosh, the now clueless streamer. Listen, okay? I know that you're probably about as up cognitively as like an amoeba or a single-celled organism, so there's no point in me really clarifying your point for your sake. But however dictatorial Venezuela or Maduro is, does not justify us invading them. I don't think we should ever invade a country unless there's an immediate, legitimate, severe national security risk, or if we're engaging in genuine liberatory action, or we're under attack, you know, some bullshit like that, okay? It was fine for us to invade Vichy France, right? I'm not against that. I think we were fine to fight the Japanese in the Pacific, etc., etc. You know, I'm not getting crazy with it. I think it was good to fight the Nazis. Invading Israel, obviously, would be based and red-pilled. But, like, no, we're not doing this to fix anything in Venezuela, okay? Best case scenario here is we do nothing. Worst case is we create a power vacuum, and the next guy who takes over is Maduro times 10, but he likes Chevron, you know? Come on, we've done this before in Iraq. What did it create? It created ISIS. This isn't about defending Maduro. Maduro's a huge piece of shit, okay? You don't engage in this insane reverse campism where you're like, well, the only possible reason you wouldn't want to engage in an illegal regime change war that will never work is because you like Maduro. Just don't be low IQ.
Back channel conversations going on with intermediaries, with officials in the regime to calibrate their reaction. Did they get this message? Do there need to be more strikes? Is there a period of negotiations now? Maduro has said that he is open to talks, but he has also made it clear he has no intention at this stage of stepping down and leaving power. We will see if that calculation has now changed, or if those more significantly around him have changed their calculations, because dictators only last as long as they have control.
I fully agree on the non-invasion take, but what is a country supposed to do if the other country keeps on refusing or breaking negotiations? How far can you legitimately go? I don't understand the relevance of this situation. Venezuela's not invading us. Negotiations over what? We're invading them, and we're sanctioning them. Like, what's the, like, what are we, like, what, like, we're essentially saying, like, we're just uncomfortable with them existing? Like, they're not capitulating to our claim that they shouldn't exist? I don't understand. What, like, they don't have to negotiate with us. If they don't want to be our friends, they don't have to. I think they would if we were good to them, but we're not, so...
Of primarily the military. If they lose control of the military and the security services, they generally lose control of the country as well. So I think we're going to, we will hear something quite soon, but I have no doubt they're trying to calibrate what exactly they're trying, what message they're trying to send, and they're probably trying to get some initial assessments of what the response was, how the government itself is receiving this attack.
And of course, we are now getting a little bit of a trickle in of governments responding. The Cuban government also strongly denouncing these alleged strikes, as reported by Gabe Gutierrez. Richard, when it comes to the talk that happened back and forth, maybe not directly, but indirectly between Nicolas Maduro.
You could also say the same thing about Vichy France. We didn't invade them just to liberate its people. Can you be fucking serious? Okay? We're not doing the ridiculous semantics, devil's advocate, bullshit debate bro stuff anymore, okay? You don't need to pretend for the sake of any argument that us invading Normandy to liberate France and fight Nazi Germany has anything to do with us bombing Caracas. Like we don't have to we don't have to strain ourselves to justify these insane, like, you're gonna break your damn arm with the reach. We don't have to do this, okay?
And President Trump, in the days leading up to this, on New Year's Day, for example,
You don't understand that people want this? No, they don't. You don't need to manufacture consent, okay? The Venezuelan people do not want to be invaded by the United States. And also, by the way, even if they did, I still wouldn't support this, okay? Like, so the population of a nation wants something. Does that mean I have to agree with it? I disagree with the majority of the population of America on plenty of issues. I'm a fucking communist, right? Like, I'm not gonna, the majority of the Venezuela, like, I bet you a lot of Venezuelan people probably like, they're in a fucked media environment. Maduro fucking sucks. And they're thinking like, damn, I really wish America could just do a super clean regime change, you know? Like, just replace Maduro with a good guy and then everything would be fine. Do you know why they think that's what would happen? Because they, like everyone, are stupid. Venezuelan, American, Russian, Israeli, South African, Filipino, whatever. It doesn't matter, man. People are fucking stupid everywhere. They're stupid everywhere. Like, so they think that's how regime change in Latin America works? Yeah, dude. Regime change in Latin America, that's when America, like, fixes your country's problems, right? America creates a power vacuum by killing your leaders, and then, afterwards, everything gets better.
Maduro saying that he was willing to negotiate to some degree, and then the United States saying that they felt that it wouldn't make much of a difference. This feels a little bit to me like a preamble leading up to the fact that these strikes may have been planned, and we're going to have moved forward no matter what.
Well,
the Senate Armed Services Committee was not informed prior. I'm sure Schumer is going to be steaming over this.
Military force has been moved to Latin America recently. We've all noticed the strikes on the boats. That's been the most obvious part of this campaign. And Gabe mentioned a short while ago that around 100...
Do troops have a good argument for disobeying orders to land in Venezuela, considering the U.S. hasn't declared war? Yes. If soldiers refused to participate in this, they would be court-martialed, and I think they would have a decent case in the following trials, though I genuinely do not know how that would go down, because a court-martial, a military trial is not the same as a regular trial. However, our soldiers are legally obligated to not follow illegal orders. So I'm really sorry, guys. I know you're kind of in a coercive environment or whatever, but I think that if you're a soldier and you're being pressed to invade Venezuela, it is better for you to just fucking take the L and go to jail. Refuse to serve. I know that fucking sucks. I know it's bad. It's a bad position for you to put in, but you did sign up. You did sign up. And if I don't agree with that, then how the fuck am I supposed to say the Wehrmacht soldiers should have, like, deserted or whatever? If you were in the Wehrmacht and you deserted, they would shoot you. In America, they don't. They just lock you up for a while. So if I believe the Wehrmacht should have deserted, then I have to believe that American soldiers also must disobey their illegal orders.
People have been killed in these strikes on small boats allegedly carrying narcotics destined for the United States. But strikes, lethal strikes on small boats, you don't need American aircraft carriers. You don't need the thousands of troops that are stationed in the region. Stationed in the region now.
No, we wouldn't. Striking a Venezuelan military base isn't against the laws of war. We haven't declared war. We haven't declared war. Congress has not declared war.
For several months. That level of power is only needed to, again, send a message to the military that the U.S. is serious and has the possibility for regime change, or to carry out strikes like the ones that we saw just a few hours ago. So there is a military
Richard,
presence.
thank you so much.
Imagine.
I'm going to pause you here because I want to alert all of our stations to be on standby at this moment, because we are going to be heading to an NBC News special report. I want to alert our stations to be on standby at this moment. We're now going to an NBC News special report.
This is an NBC News special report.
Good day to you. I'm Peter Alexander with this NBC News
God,
special
modern soups
report.
look
We are
awful.
coming on the air right now with breaking news out of Venezuela, where several explosions
Really?
have rocked the capital city there of Caracas. That is according to multiple eyewitnesses that NBC News has spoken to over the last several hours. Those eyewitnesses sharing firsthand accounts of those explosions. The Venezuelan government, for its part, has accused the United States in a new statement from overnight of carrying out the military attacks, condemning the strikes as what
Again, at this point, we have absolute 100% confirmation from the American government that Trump signed off on these attacks. The insistence on pretending that it's an accusation from the Venezuelan government that we're the ones who did this is just pure fucking North Korea propaganda shit. Absolutely insane. Like, fuck, it's unbelievable that they even feel the need to do this.
Extremely serious military aggression. Neither the White House nor the Pentagon has issued any comment. We are out to both the White House and the Pentagon, as well as the State Department, for any information on this. And of course, we're monitoring Truth Social to hear if the President of the United States shares any comments as well. But notably, if the U.S. is behind these strikes, it would mark a major escalation from the United States military after the Trump administration's months-long pressure campaign on Venezuela.
Say this because you don't live day to day in Cuba or Venezuela. You have the privilege of saying that we don't in Venezuela, and yes, things will change for the better. I'm sorry, but I'm going to America explain to you. No, they just wouldn't, man. Can you point to any example of a U.S. military intervention or decapitation strike in Latin America improving things? Like Honduras, Colombia, Argentina, Cuba. I'd like it's. I'm just referring to Chile. Oh nope. Guatemala. Nope. It just doesn't work out that way. Listen, okay, you're getting a bad deal over there in Venezuela or whatever. All right, but and look, you can be angry, but if you want America to take action, the action you should be looking for is the normalization of relations between America and those countries. You mentioned Cuba, Venezuela. Wow, 2 countries America has sanctioned. Why don't we treat them normally? Like, we do business with fucking Saudi Arabia. They finance terrorists all the time. We do business with Pakistan. They literally finance 9/11. We have no problem working with the most evil governments in the fucking world. So we're totally unwilling to engage in basic fucking diplomacy with Venezuela and Cuba, 2 countries that pose no threat to the United States. None. Absolutely none. That's what causes the instability. We push Cuba and Venezuela towards instability by refusing to engage with them. We could provide stability, but we are the great Satan. Obviously. I'm just like, you need to direct your anger appropriately. A U.S.-backed military intervention is not going to solve this for your people. Look, okay, if a Venezuelan resistance movement rose up and took out Maduro, I would be celebrating. Assuming the resistance movement wasn't like worse than Maduro. This isn't about defending Maduro, okay? Fuck that guy. But this is not the way.
Leader Nicolas Maduro's regime there. Maduro, someone that the United States has said is an illegitimate leader, the head of what the United States, U.S. says is a narco-terrorist state. And of course, it follows a recent U.S. strike in Venezuela just before the end of the year, as well as we have been reporting for weeks and months now, those military strikes on boats in the region that the U.S.
The problem is we tried that, Vosh. We tried normalizing relations with Venezuela and Cuba. No, we fucking didn't. Obama dropped our threat level on Cuba like 8 seconds before he left office, which Trump immediately undid as soon as he became president. No, we didn't.
Have been carrying drugs throughout the region. Again, right now you are looking at pictures into our newsroom of explosions in the capital city of Caracas, Venezuela. No statement from the United States so far, but the Venezuelan government is accusing this.
Venezuelans really think Trump is helping? You are linking a single Reddit comment. Can you please stop manufacturing consent here? I do not think the majority of Venezuelans want regime change backed by the U.S. I don't think that at all. I don't think that's even remotely supported by the evidence. This is a 5-minute-old Reddit comment, you know?
Of being an extremely
We
serious
need to moderate our
military
language.
aggression, a military attack from the United States. A series of my colleagues are up early as we begin the new year together right now with the very latest on all of it.
Like at least 60% do? No, they fucking don't. And as far as I'm concerned, you're engaging in war apologia, okay? So seriously, moderate your language. By which I mean, shut the fuck up. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think you are wrong, okay?
To begin with NBC News' senior White House correspondent, my colleague Gabe Gutierrez, who has been up early detailing some of
And by the way, even if you were right and the majority of the Venezuelan people wanted that, I would still not support it, to be clear.
Seeing right now, Gabe, as we know, this comes after what have been weeks of threats and warnings and accusations by the United States. The president, only a matter of days ago, had said that Nicolas Maduro's days were numbered. If the U.S. is behind these strikes, it appears very clear that the U.S. is now amping up the pressure on the Venezuelan leader. Gabe?
Certainly. It's a dramatic escalation, it appears to be, Peter. And President Trump, just in the last few weeks, had been saying that he anticipated strikes inside Venezuela.
I also don't support this, but I talk to a lot of Venezuelans who are there, and they do. I can't engage with that. Also, people said the same thing about Vietnam and Iraq. People were it was all hearts and minds with Iraq. Oh, no. The Iraqis will welcome the liberation forces of the United States. That was the bullshit the Bush admin was selling people on. Of course, it was fucking completely dishonest, right? Yeah, Russians say that about Ukraine. Everyone says that about every war.
Now, just within the past several days, the president acknowledged that there was at least one strike inside Venezuela, although the White House refused to provide many details on that. The president only saying earlier this week, confirming that the U.S. had struck some sort of dock area in an unspecified part of Venezuela, a place where he said that boats were being loaded up with drugs. And, Peter, that is something that the White House, as you know, has been repeatedly saying throughout this entire campaign, that the focus here is
how much worse would Kamala have done this? Kamala would have nuked Venezuela for sure.
Trying to prevent drugs like fentanyl. And
would arming opposition groups in Venezuela be better? What? One of the fucking more power-hungry, ambitious cartels? No, probably not. Listen, dollars to donuts. We'll never find out if I'm right or wrong, but you know what I think? If we drop the sanctions, traded with Venezuela normally, and just treated them like a respectable Latin American partner, I bet you within 5 years that country would be fine. Just fine. I bet we could end the drug war just by opening up routes of just by opening trade up and allowing that country to flourish economically in a way that doesn't have to rely on drug peddling. You know, we could form better relationships both within Venezuela and Colombia to cut down on the trafficking. We could have more like a naval trade, which would clog the waters and make it more difficult to bring in the fucking cartel boats to land like north of the Panama Canal or whatever. You know how they get into Mexico, they communicate with the cartels in Mexico. Like we could literally like just normalize relations with them and trade with them and do diplomacy and invest and have some mutual investment and so on. And we could they would be fine. Yeah, man, it's working really well with Brazil, bro. They're doing so well. Brazil's doing better than fucking Venezuela. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes. Please.
From reaching the United States. Of course, much of the fentanyl that reaches the U.S. is made in Mexico with precursor chemicals from China, but that has not stopped the administration from making the argument that it is engaged with armed combatants, that is labeled foreign terrorist organizations in and around Venezuela and in the Caribbean. Now, the administration...
Like that's literally what we did with Brazil. Brazil was a military dictatorship up until like 5 minutes ago. It was pretty recent. Brasilia was their fascist planned capital. The thing that allowed Brazil to transition into a functioning Democracy was the relative economic stability. You know, listen, okay? We do dialectical materialism up in this motherfucker. Take your idealism back to Hegel, you piece of shit. You goddamn idealist. All right? The material conditions create the ability for democracies to form. All right? You need economic stability. This unfortunately did not work in the Saudis, though. Yeah, because Saudi Arabia is not a real country. Saudi Arabia is a fucking oil company with a kingdom attached to it. Okay, that's not comparable.
Several months has carried out a series of strikes on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean, in the Eastern Pacific, some as recently as this week. More than 100 people have been killed. But this, if it indeed turns out to be strikes...
finally, confirmation from Trump on Truth Social. Now, at last, we know that it was us. The US of A has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. Oh, shit. Holy shit. Well, that explains the fucking Chinooks. Jesus Christ. Could be disinfo. Well, sure. I mean, he lies about everything, but I think we can reasonably assume this is true. Yeah, I guess it was a decapitation strike. They actually got him alive? I guess that's why the Venezuelan military wasn't doing anything. Their leader was just gone. Yeah, holy shit. We just abducted a sovereign nation's president and his wife. Has this literally ever happened before? Chat, I'm kind of blanking. Can somebody... What's another example? Panama? Saddam, maybe? No, not Saddam. Hitler did this to Mussolini. That's different, okay? That's different. That was wacky. Noriega from Panama? Yeah, okay. Jesus Christ. Does something like this cascade into a larger war? Dude, we're gonna do a fucking show trial of the president of Venezuela. Holy shit. It's not going to cascade into a larger war. Oh, sorry, I unmuted that accidentally. This isn't going to cascade into a larger war with the US. This might lead to an insane power vacuum in Venezuela, though. Jesus Christ, I'm trying to think of what, like, the ramifications of this are going to be. Can Maduro even be tried in the U.S. court? I mean, we can do whatever we want, you know, because we're powerful. I'm kind of reeling from this. I'm not gonna lie. I have no idea. We're a fucking rogue state, dog. It's insane. We're a goddamn rogue state. I mean, we've been to varying extents for a while, but the seizure of a sovereign leader For what, a show trial? Are we just going to enter him into our court system? What the fuck? Huh. Venezuela's about to become another Haiti? Honestly, not impossible. Okay, if they really took Maduro and his wife, they have no intention of giving him back. They fully intend for him to either spend the rest of his life in an American prison cell or to die here, like executed. Which means they have to be planning for his replacement in Venezuela. But I would be really surprised if they've done the groundwork to make sure that stupid bitch takes power. What's her name? Like, I sincerely doubt that we have the foreign policy acumen, the clout, whatever else. Maria Corina Machado, yeah. Non-zero chance that Maria is appointed by Trump as president. Yeah, she's going to appear at Mar-a-Lago and accept Trump's official announcement that she's president of Venezuela. Non-zero chance. Honestly, like 50% chance that happens. I would say that's a coin flip right there. I'm seeing reports that generals cut a deal. Masaigu, link it. You can't just say that. You have to link it. Generals cut a deal and basically let them take Maduro. Yeah, that's a very real possibility. It would explain how they were able to get him out that easy with minimal combat, you know. But I don't think the generals are, well, the generals are in it for themselves, and the cartels are still getting what they want, even if Venezuela is opened up to American business exploitation. So there's no way, man. If they really do try to appoint her as president, they're going to fucking kill her. Like, Maduro has stayed alive this long because of his systems of patronage. He appoints close advisors and family members to positions of power. He's paranoid. He keeps himself safe. If he really has been given up by his generals, what's the first thing Maria knows going into the presidency? That her generals will sell people out if it's convenient to them. Like, she is not smart or well-connected enough. If she was, she would already be president. It's not like Maduro's been doing a good job, you know? It delegitimizes her from the get-go that her ascension as the people's leader in Venezuela had to be facilitated by U.S. military intervention. It makes her look bad. It makes it look like she can't possibly be the savior of the Venezuelan people. Why did she need Trump's help? But she's been leaning on Trump for you know, the entire past year. It makes her look weak. And if she looks weak, and if she's not popular, then one of the generals or one of the cartel leaders or someone else in a position of power is going to replace her. It's just going to create a power vacuum. Everything's going to be up for grabs. It could actually turn in like a Haiti situation. It could turn into like a Haiti, fucking Somalia, you know, Sudan. I mean, like a failed state. It could be. Might not. So wait, the Chinooks landed, took Maduro, and left, or did the strikes happen first, then the landing, then the takeoff? I mean, we don't know the exact timeline. It's U.S. Special Forces. We can assume they're competent. They're probably, especially if they were helped by the Venezuelan generals, it's reasonable to assume that they're competent and can, you know, get it done. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how they got this stuff. Listen, if they were able to coordinate with people in positions of power in the Venezuelan government, what they did today is not like super exceptional. It's crazy, not in that it's difficult to do, but rather in that it's an insane thing to do. an unbelievably insane thing to do. Venezuela's headless right now. They also have a VP. Doesn't matter. Maduro was a strong man. It's not a real democracy. Why replace her when they could control her? Because they're also ambitious. It's not just a self-interest thing. Bro, the oil exec's so happy right now. It's not even profitable, man. Ugh. It's kind of insane because now every leader of the country will have to consider this possibility of this happening to them. It's so destabilizing. Like, America and the Soviet Union could have, at any point during the Cold War, assassinated or kidnapped basically anyone on Earth, right? We were the two superpowers, and we had all the nukes. Anywhere in the world, Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia, it doesn't really matter. If we wanted somebody dead or gone, we could do it. But even in countries where we wanted that done, we didn't usually directly do it, right? Like, we would back militia groups, or we would we would engage in some level of subterfuge, you know, Kissinger shit, right? It wasn't all Vietnam War. It wasn't all direct assassinations. A lot of it was, what if we just, you know, gave some aid to these people? What if we gave some guns to these people? Iran-Contra scandal, all that bullshit. But this, just marching special forces into a capital and announcing it immediately. And it's such a wild imbalance in the level of overwhelming dictatorial power that the administration has, where we can apparently do whatever we want to foreigners. Like, if you're in a different country, we can bomb you, kill you, we can do anything. We bombed like 7 countries in the past year, or whatever. We just randomly strike. You know, we can threaten to attack anyone, Canada, Greenland. It doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want. No limits, you know. But over here in the United States, the case brought against like Letitia James or James Comey, you know, these attempts by the Trump administration to legalize the justice system or weaponize the justice system against their political enemies immediately fell through. Like, the Trump administration is completely incapable of doing anything to silence its political opposition domestically. But abroad, I guess they can just do anything. Are you ready for the insane amount of cope Carolyn Levitt's going to have to perform in the morning when the press pool asks? No, because the press pool is just going to say, like, the press pool is not going to hold Carolyn Levitt's feet to the fire because they're all complicit. I promise you they're not going to make her job tough. Fuck, man. Can you shed some light on what countries neighboring Venezuela think of this? Nobody likes it. Surprise, surprise. The Latin American leaders do not like the idea of America being able to just yoink anyone they want. If the Soviets won, would things be better off? I don't fucking know. Probably not. America and the Soviet Union were like fucking dark reflections of each other, okay? They were a mirror and the reflection that you saw in it, and it was the dynamic between the two of them that created the conditions that set the world as it is. If the Soviet Union won and America had lost, it probably in the long run would have run basically down the same line, you know? The Soviet Union would have had the exact same crisis of production. They would have capitulated towards capital ownership because they were revisionist basically from the day the Soviet Union was formed. Like Lenin gave up on communism pretty much the nanosecond he turned on the anarchists and the workers' councils. Like it all would have run down. Again, it's historical materialism, okay? Not to say the future is inevitable, but we are definitely following like a river, you know? I can't tell you the exact path the canoe that we're on is going to take, but I can tell you that there's a fucking waterfall like a kilometer down that way, and there is no amount of paddling back up the stream that's going to, you know, keep you away from it. Fuck Maduro and Syria, lock them up, lose the key. I don't think that America should be the world police, actually. No matter how much you dislike Maduro and his wife, I really don't think that we should be the... This is like fucking celebrating Jews who died in the Holocaust because you knew one of the Jews and he was like a shitty guy. Like, you can't defend the system just because like a specific outcome within the system's abuses is like perceptibly justifiable, right? It's gonna get a lot worse now. That comparison was ass. Sorry, I'm an internet politics guy. I have a very small number of references in my, you know, my utility belt. Also, I'm tired. It's 2 a.m. I really didn't expect to be here right now. North Korea sweating right now? Nah, Trump likes Kim. The only equivalent is the Soviet coup on the president of Afghanistan in 1979. They did a similar thing where Soviet special forces stormed his presidential compound and nabbed him like they did Maduro. And famously, in the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, after that nabbing, everything went really well for the Soviets. As we all know, afterwards, it was smooth sailing. Any chance China uses this excuse to attack Taiwan? I doubt they would use this as an excuse specifically, but like, we are contributing to an international environment of instability, right? Our continued defense of Israel, despite their open, flagrant crimes, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, bit by bit, we are wearing away at the post-Cold War idea that there should be some kind of order to the movement of nations, right? Russia was the big one, and then Israel, and now the United States. In terms of like massive, flagrant, recent violations of the international legal order. Obviously, this is not the first time we've done this, but I mean like in recent, like in the past decade, this has been the cascade, right? Russia's invasion of Ukraine, insane. Israel's genocide of the Palestinians, insane. Our defense of them doing so, insane. Us kidnapping Maduro, insane. It goes beyond just, you know, crimes abroad. Hey, Vosh, apparently it's common sentiment in Venezuela for them to want an invasion from America. Can't imagine the mindset. Yeah, well, a lot of Americans say shit like President Xi, fire the missiles when ready, okay? Please do not extrapolate from the shit posts online that you hear gringos talk about from a foreign perspective to be like implicit endorsement of actual U.S. military intervention.
U.S., this would be a strike. But it seems that they wanted to arrest him. They wanted him in custody. And the closest place that is American custody would be a warship. And then from the warship to the U.S. mainland. So I would be expecting that we will see Nicolas Maduro in front of an American court before too long. And it will be a moment for Marco Rubio to celebrate, a way for the Trump administration to prove it's serious about its exerting its force in Latin America. Let's not forget one of the first things President Trump did was call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. He clearly wants to show dominance in America's backyard, and he has just carried out I don't want to say breathtaking, but a surprise secret operation. The Venezuelan journalist you were talking to a short while ago said that she was shocked by this news. Peter, we were on air when this news came in. I almost asked you to repeat it. Did you really say the U.S. just went in and arrested Maduro?
Yeah.
Clearly they did. He had not been responding to the escalating pressure campaign. He had not been crying uncle.
Sorry. He hadn't been responding. What were we supposed to do? What were we supposed to do? He hadn't been responding to our escalating pressure campaign. It's like we had no choice, basically.
Recently said that he was willing to negotiate. He was willing to collaborate. He was willing to find out a solution. It reminds me of the days of Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein in Iraq, when he was arrested, he'd been hiding in a hole. And the first thing he did is he put up his hands and he said, I am Saddam Hussein and I am willing to negotiate. It was too late for negotiations at that stage, and he was taken into custody and then ultimately handed over to the Iraqis and executed. I think at this stage, Nicolas Maduro, who has already been called a terrorist, already been charged with narco crimes, will end up facing an American court and probably being sentenced to a litany of crimes.
Richard, I want to
sentenced to a litany of crimes. Big brain analysis. Also, what, accused of being a terrorist? I love the implication of what he just said is that Nicolas Maduro has committed more crimes than Saddam Hussein. Like, he was like, yeah, well, with Saddam Hussein, he was turned over to an Iraqi court and executed. It was too late. But with Maduro, well, like, we've called him a terrorist, and we've also said that he, like, deals drugs or something. So that's why we have to subject him to an American court. And yeah, he's basically much, much, much worse than Saddam Hussein. Narco-terrorism is a completely made-up term, by the way. Yeah, no, 100%. If you ever hear a person use that term, you can discredit them immediately. By narco-terrorism, what they're trying to do is say, if a person is involved in the drug trade, we get to use war on terror rhetoric against them. The post-war on terror, world order, is one in which America insists that if we accuse any foreign government or individual of engaging in terrorism, we can extrajudicially kill them. We can do whatever the fuck we want to them if we designate them a terrorist. So narco-terrorist now means, well, drug dealing, that's kind of like terrorism, right? Because every bag of fentanyl could theoretically kill like 1 billion Americans or something.
Marinate in this moment for a sec about whatever type of operation it would require to be able to go in there and sweep up Nicolas Maduro, to take his wife with him as well out of that country. As the president said, the circumstances, of course, are very different, but there have been other operations that have been veiled in secrecy, that stunned in many ways the world. You've been talking about the situation with Saddam Hussein, the very different circumstances. The United States back in 2011, of course, was able to go into Abu Dhabi, Pakistan, where they found Osama bin Laden, who had been hiding out there. That was a very different desire. He was not the leader of any country, of course. In fact, he was a terrorist leader, and he was killed in the course of that operation. But it the U.S. ability to do this in secrecy, and at least to this point, we're waiting for any information about whether any Americans, whether there was any resistance, whether arms were fired at American troops, or whether the situation was not too dissimilar to the one you detail with Saddam Hussein, where he just put his hands up at the time. But the U.S. has, you know, it reminds Americans of the unique capabilities the U.S. has when the orders come from the president.
Fucking incredible. These fucking pieces of shit, man. So, and as a lesson to us illegally abducting a foreign leader, I guess the lesson we can all learn is America can do lots of cool stuff. That's what I've got. Yep.
The United States, with the military involved, to do something of such a high and dramatic scale like this.
This would be the helicopter operation. You can't land a fixed-wing aircraft in the middle of a city.
How
and
interesting.
Witnesses in Caracas.
This is worse than the Iraq war shit, man. I swear, this is worse. At least with the Iraq war, the Bush administration spent a year building everyone up, lying to the UN, lying about weapons of mass destruction. In this case, everyone knows all of this is bullshit. The Pentagon has completely shut down access to journalists. Everybody knows they're lying about everything. There is no question on any level. And they're still, with no prompting, everyone here at NBC and everywhere else is still like, yeah, we're just going to play defense for this. Like, you don't even need to fucking ask us. There was 70% support in 2003 for Iraq. Today, there is 30% support for conflict in Venezuela. Yeah, and they're just doing it anyway. They're just doing it anyway.
Described hearing helicopters. So the reason you do a wide-scale military operation is to make sure that the forces going in are protected. Venezuela does have allies in Russia, does have anti-aircraft systems. Its military is a bit of a shambles. The country is under sanctions. There is an elite that has a lot of money, and then a great deal of poverty. Most of the refugees that are
wow, how unique to Venezuela.
Spreading around across Latin America. Many of them come from Venezuela itself. So an impoverished nation that had been run by a
not to mention, like, the invasion of Iraq was a lot more justifiable, at least in the public conscience, because, and this is a pretty big deal, Saddam Hussein was actually, like, really bad. Like, way, 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 way worse than Maduro. Not to say the Iraq invasion was justified, but at least Saddam Hussein was like an actual big bad, like a real geopolitical, like a horrible, monstrous leader. Yeah, genocide, the war with Iran, man, like fucking unbelievable destruction and suffering, which we supported him on, by the way. We defended him. We protected him. That's why we fucking let him live after Operation Desert Storm. We let him fucking live.
Who has now been arrested, but it definitely demonstrates the U.S. capabilities. And I stress, because I've been speaking to mediators for months now, there has been an escalating pressure campaign directed not just on Maduro, but around his inner circle, the military around him, to hand him over. And Maduro's response was either to laugh it off. If you remember, he was seen in holding rallies, singing John Lennon songs, saying, "Imagine a time we can have peace." He was saying that this was just a great big American Yankee imperial plot, and he wasn't getting the message.
Which was completely correct. He was completely correct on that. Like, no, like unambiguously correct. No, no question.
Around him clearly got worried, and it seems like someone turned him in. With the U.S. military pressure in the region, with the strikes on the boats, and then that strike on land just before New Year's, I think you can see these now, how they line up, leading to what we saw overnight. An escalating campaign of military presence, boat strikes, a land strike, back-channel negotiations to get the inner circle to turn on Maduro, and now a capture operation. You mentioned Osama bin Laden. That was a kill operation. Kill operations are much easier. You know where he is, you bomb it, it's over. But the Trump administration clearly wanted to take him, go power, and put him in front of a court.
Just to pull back the curtain to let our audience in on some of what happens behind the scenes during developments like this, we have been reaching out to those who work at the White House and the Pentagon as well for any additional details. I've been texting as we speak with officials in and around the White House for any better details. We've now been asking where Nicolas Maduro has been taken, is being taken. They have yet to respond to that. Again, the president saying that he will.
There is a real chance that Maduro gets disappeared or dies out at sea, by the way, because or possibly is subjected to a U.S. military court, which would be illegal, but fucking who cares at this point? Like, if he was tried in America, he might get off. Like, you can't, an American court can't try him for the crime of being evil in Venezuela or whatever. They would have to get, for one, the prosecution would be run by the Justice Department, which is insanely incompetent, and any competent defense team for Maduro could at the very least clog this for years. We're talking about the history's most incompetent Justice Department up against a foreign leader. There's no precedent for this. We'd be trying him in an American court. It would not be the quick and satisfying trial. These trials have not been going the way Trump wants them to, you know? If it's done through the regular process, which again we have no precedent for, it's absolutely insane, right? I don't know. Yeah, maybe they're taking him to Gitmo. How can we try a foreign leader for crimes outside the jurisdiction of the U.S.? It's a very unprecedented thing. Maduro and 14 current and former Venezuelan officials charged with narco terrorism, corruption, drug trafficking, and other criminal charges. Yeah, but okay. This was Trump's DOJ. I mean, they would have to it's not easy to file charges and prosecute somebody. That's why Trump keeps failing to do this. You know?
A news conference to take place at about 11 o'clock, which is, if it's almost 5 o'clock here, roughly 6 hours from now. Richard, stay with.
Very quick transition to democracy, but again, because there were U.S. boots on the ground. What a lot of critics of the current strategy are very worried about, right? It's that we see a situation here more like Libya post-Arab Spring, more like Iraq eventually after the U.S. intervention there, and not a situation like, say, Panama in 1989, where you have the extraction of that country's narco president and a very quick transition to democracy. But again, because there were U.S. boots on the ground, there were U.S. forces to guide that transition. Why they called them that. You're not going to have that here in Venezuela, for all that we know. I mean, right now we have 15,000 U.S. Military personnel, give or take, off the coast in the Caribbean. That's not even anywhere near the quantity.
Did they just say narco president? Narco president, narco terrorist, narco criminal, narco. The buzzword. Hey, did you know that the Venezuelan government is complicit in drug peddling? You know, like every single fucking country, like America is. Like the U.S., like Mexico, like Colombia, like every fucking government?
You'd need to hold and control critical transit lines along, or transport routes along the path to Caracas and the city itself. So
Look, I think the best case scenario here is that the Trump administration has worked out a deal with the parts of the Venezuelan military, powerful ones, and that they've agreed to some kind of negotiated transition where the opposition will gain some power. Unfortunately, probably they'll receive some amount of impunity, but that's the best case. The worst case is that none of that planning has been done, and that we're going to find out tomorrow that there's no day after plan, that it was somehow magically hoped that the opposition would simply take power, and that doesn't happen, and that we either get a worse version of Maduro in office or no one is in control, right? In which case you may see much larger outmigration from Venezuela. You may see drug traffickers and other crime groups gain even deeper control of the country. So this is a roll of the dice, and I don't want to pass any conclusion yet about what's going to happen. Clearly, we don't know very much, but it's just it injects an incredible amount of uncertainty into Latin America. You know, I would say maybe as much as you've ever seen since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, we're talking about an event of those proportions.
Hello, Venezuelan
Will
here.
Freeman,
Hello.
your expertise is invaluable to us right now.
Hope you're doing okay.
And we appreciate
your fucking president just got illegally abducted.
Your honesty and the assessment that you, like so many others, are sort of just stunned by the news that we're seeing right now, and we will watch as this plays out over the course of the next several hours, days, and hope to get a better minute-by-minute understanding of what took place before dawn, even as we anticipate the sun to rise shortly over Caracas very soon. Stay with us. We're going to want to revisit with you, obviously, as we continue with our developing coverage here. I want to get very quickly, as we come close to the top of the hour, back to our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel. Richard, you heard from Will Freeman there detailing what the United States Southern Command had said only a matter of days ago. I think it was back in December, where they said there were about 15,000 U.S. forces who were...
Venezuelan defense minister posted a video statement. Oh, okay. He lived.
Buenos días, pueblo heroico de Venezuela, soldados y soldadas.
Now, I'm noticing that this is not in English.
La patria, hijos e hijas de Bolívar. La Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana, para la cual estamos ya levantando lejos de una lucha por la libertad. Nosotros, que extendemos la mano en hermandad, hoy cerramos
Very inconsiderate to English speakers who might be watching.
There in
we'll
the
get the
region, the president
subtitled
described them
later.
as part of a, quote, massive armada. As he said, the U.S. is in no position, though, with that number to sort of control Venezuela were that necessary. And he detailed this sort of fork in the road we now face about the potential, perhaps, for a Democratic-led government, but also the real concern and fear that the vacuum could be filled with others sort of in the image of Nicolas Maduro, who share his view, his condemnation of the United States.
His condemnation. Oh, I would hate that. I would hate for Maduro's absence creating a power vacuum, for him to be replaced by a guy who shares his condemnation of the United States. What a fucking transparent way to admit the only thing this is a political attack. You know, it has nothing to do with crimes or narco-terrorism or defense of the Venezuelan people or anything like that. Literally, just we want an agreeable leader. Jesus fucking Christ. They don't even bother to hide it, man.
Well, I think he described it perfectly, that Venezuela is now at a fork in the road. It will either go and have a successful democratic transition, and there is an opposition, just won Nobel Peace Prize. Venezuela had an election, which Nicolas Maduro stole. So will the legitimate opposition be able to take power in a relatively smooth way? Or did President Trump just plunge Venezuela into a civil war? He's absolutely right. 15,000 troops are not nearly enough to occupy a country the size of Venezuela and manage a transition. There were more than 120,000 troops in Iraq, sometimes more than that, and about 1 million troops cycled through the country. And Iraq still plunged into civil war, so more troops had to be added in order to stop the civil war. He mentioned Libya, which I think is a key example. The United States never occupied Libya, never had troops on the ground, just did in that case, it was an assassination operation to remove Muammar Gaddafi and plunged Libya into civil war. So this is a very dangerous crossroads. The one advantage advantage that Venezuela does have is it has a strong, legitimate opposition that has been recognized internationally, that President Trump wants
They're
to
all in on it, man. They're all in on it. Everything. The Nobel Peace Prize being awarded, all of it was a part. The same cabal, the same group of bourgeois oligarch fucks behind the scenes. Not even behind the scenes. I mean, it's all pretty fucking open. The whole thing from the beginning, entirely engineered. There's none of this has fallen out of place. It's all lined up.
do business with that has a credible leader. But will the military allow that? Will factions of the military allow that? And oil. Let's not forget about oil. We can talk about that more with later guests.
Oh, my God.
Richard Engel, our chief foreign correspondent, has been joining us. Our colleague Keir Simmons is joining us as well. Gabe Gutierrez, our senior White House correspondent, as we continue with this rolling coverage of the United States and the strikes that it has carried out taking place in Venezuela over the course of the last several hours. As we come upon 5 o'clock, we want to give our audiences a chance, as we will reset it very quickly again. I'm Peter Alexander here live with this special report, our live developing coverage of the situation on the ground taking place in the capital city of Caracas, Venezuela. Overnight, first beginning at about 2 o'clock Eastern time, we learned about strikes taking place, strikes that you see on the ground there, those fiery explosions in around the capital city of Caracas. And then shortly after 4 o'clock this morning, the President Trump, detailing in a post on his preferred social media megaphone, Truth Social, saying the United States of America has successfully carried out what he called a large
kind of near abroad. That's the way, for example,
the helicopter carrying him flew overhead. So that would be the precedent. But whether it's legal or not, no. I mean, it's not legal, I don't think, either under U.S. law or.
So.
President Trump has often said he wanted regime change, and this is just the first step, though. Who do you think the US would want to see replace Maduro?
I think the US has been very clear that it supports the Venezuelan opposition, which is led by Maria Corina Machado, the opposition leader, who recently traveled to Oslo to collect her Nobel Peace Prize. She fled Venezuela undercover in a treacherous journey across sea and land to get to Oslo. We don't know her whereabouts at the moment. She's been living in hiding since the 2024 election, briefly reappearing at a protest in 2025 when Nicolas Maduro was inaugurated, to essentially protest against his re-election. She was then briefly captured, so she has been living in hiding ever since. The opposition, who was led by Maria Corina Machado, but whose candidate was Edmundo Gonzalez in the 2024 election, have published tallies from that election, which they say show categorically that not Nicolas Maduro, won that election. And the US has been a firm ally of the Venezuelan opposition ever since. Maria Corina Machado has been pretty bullish herself when she has done media appearances over the last couple of months in particular. She has been pretty clear that while she's sort of shied away from questions about whether she would support the kind of bombing and strikes that we've seen today, she's been pretty clear that she does want the US's support to overthrow Nicolas Maduro, that she does believe the opposition would be a strong ally of the US and would open up, for example, its oil industry again, something that the international community has at times called for. So I think certainly it's pretty clear that the US has a natural ally already in the opposition. The question is whether really that would be possible.
And also, would
or
Machado
whether the
be
Venezuelan people would benefit from
the
it.
Venezuelan population? Could she be a stabilizing force in that way?
I think that's a really important point because she does remain a controversial figure in Venezuela. There are members of the sort of Maduro government and those loyal to the Maduro government that, of course, do not support her. But there are also people who are very critical of Nicolas Maduro and of the current administration who still feel nervous about the level of allyship, for example, that Maria Corina Machado has shown to President Donald Trump. I've spoken to some Venezuelans over the last couple of months, for example, who say that they fear US intervention, that they don't like the current government, but they also do not want the sort of intervention that they feel like Maria Corina was calling for. So it isn't by any means kind of certain that she would be necessarily, as you say, welcomed with open arms in the country.
Her candidate literally got 70% of the vote like 6 months ago. She got the support. For one, her candidate is not her. For two, yes, people don't like Maduro. But I don't think when they voted for the opposition candidate to Maduro, they were saying, I like this opposition candidate so much that I wish that America would invade us and put them in charge. You know? Like, that's not... I don't think those things translate. Also, I think there's a pretty massive credibility gap between the guy who actually ran and her. Like, people often say that because they were part of the same party, they must share popularity. I don't think that's true at all. Like, my understanding is that the guy who actually ran, you know, in her stead, like was the public face of that, had a lot more credibility, whereas Maria has just been like a fucking clown for the past year, openly begging America to engage in regime change, to invade, dedicating her Peace Prize to Donald Trump.
Thank you. That's our South America correspondent, Ione Wells. Well, if you're just joining us, let's recap that significant breaking news that has emerged in the past hour. President Trump says the United States has carried out large-scale strikes against Venezuela and captured President Nicolas Maduro. In a social media post, Mr. Trump said the Venezuelan leader and his wife had been flown out of the country. Mr. Maduro's capture has not been confirmed by Venezuela, we should add. This all began in the early hours.
Yeah, not the best way, but it might be the only way. I promise you it's not the only way. As I pointed out earlier, America could simply normalize trade relations with Venezuela, and in a couple of years, Venezuela would be a much more livable place. It is not a coincidence that the two major nations that are in the biggest shits right now in Latin America, Cuba and Venezuela, both are sanctioned by the United States and have been enduring unnecessarily hostile relations from our government, when they are no threat to us at all.
Of the morning when large explosions hit Caracas, the Venezuelan capital, and other cities across the country. Military installations in the capital were among the sites hit, and helicopters were seen in the sky. The Venezuelan government has condemned the attacks as a colonial war aimed at regime change and said it was doomed to fail. It urged all Venezuelans to mobilize to defend the nation. Well, let's speak now to Dr. Christopher Sabatini, who's a senior fellow for Latin America at Chatham House. Christopher, this is an enormously significant development.
Well, it's been building now for 6 months. We saw the buildup of the Armada off the coast, the U.S. Naval Armada off the coast of Venezuela. What's changed over time has been the narrative. This was originally about narcotics. Then it was about basically starving the Maduro government of revenue. Then about sort of a designation of Maduro's government as a foreign terrorist organization and the removal. But you're right, Lakshmi, this is really quite unprecedented to swoop in. Now, he's not a democratically elected president. That was clear in 2024 when he stole the elections. But the idea that the U.S. would swoop in, bomb numerous military targets, they were not bombing civilian targets, and remove a president, allegedly, I would imagine, to stand trial in the United States, is very unprecedented. It sends a signal not just to the Venezuelan government and the Venezuelan citizens, but across the region that the Trump administration is an administration that's willing to, when matters of sort of national sovereignty, is willing to violate that to achieve its own stated ends. And that's precisely what Donald Trump has been saying over the last couple months, that Nicolas Maduro has to go. And he demonstrated his willingness to pursue even, let's say, legally questionable tactics to do that.
What do you think the reaction of US allies is likely to be? We've heard from, for example, Cuba, Iran and Colombia condemning the attacks, but that's, of course, no surprise. What do you think the reaction of Trump's allies around the world is likely to be?
You're right, Lakshmi. I mean, the usual expected reaction of the the rogues gallery that typically support Venezuela has been predictable. You know, it's going to be interesting. So let's try to break this out a bit. I think for European allies, many of whom had opposed Nicolas Maduro, had denounced the elections, this is still coming as somewhat of a surprise.
Really?
Is a step too far. I think many of them will.
Maybe it's a step too far. Some people are saying this might have been a little bit unexpected, you know? Even from the BBC, folks.
Will re-emphasize the fact that Maduro was an illegitimate president in Venezuela. But of course, what comes next is really going to be the key, because as everyone has been saying, including the Trump administration, and this they get right, this is a deeply criminal, corrupt regime. So if there's going to be a regime change...
I mean, so is ours. Nobody's regime changing us as much as I've called for it. Let me see. The president of Colombia says they've just concluded their National Security Council meeting. Public forces are being deployed to the border. The embassy is open, and they are calling for a UN Security Council emergency meeting. Yeah, that makes sense.
From within. And some people are alleging right now that the Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, is somehow preparing to assume some sort of interim role. That will not be palatable to many governments, even within the European Union. So we'll have to see how this shakes out. I think we'll see, again, denunciation of Nicolas Maduro, but some trepidation, concern even about U.S. tactics to get there. But in particular, what will happen in the next few days is going to determine how many governments will respond. If it's, by some miracle, a successful operation that leads to a democratic transition and peace in Venezuela, then perhaps the norm-violating actions of the Trump administration will be forgotten. But if it suddenly turns south, I think we're going to see much more criticism. For other governments within Latin America, we are going to see from the left-leaning governments, such as in Mexico, Brazil, and Colombia, severe denunciations of this intervention. From the other governments that are closely aligned with the Donald Trump administration, I think they'll remain quiet. And the truth is that Maduro remains a deeply unpopular figure across Latin America because of his transnational criminal ties and because of the massive wave of refugees that have left Venezuela, more than 8 million people, and are placing severe...
Just imagine them talking like this if Russia or China bombed the Capitol and kidnapped Donald Trump. And they're like, yeah, this was pretty unexpected, but America had refused to engage with the denunciations and pressure that, Beijing and Moscow had been escalating. And also, Trump was very unpopular across the Americas for his policies and his illegal, anti-asylum behavior.
Difficulties on public, not public safety, but public safety net programs, such as in education, healthcare, and the like, among many of Venezuela's neighbors. So they will welcome this change. But the governments themselves, especially of the left, will feel a duty to denounce this as a violation of national sovereignty.
Will feel an obligation to. It's not because it is a violation of national sovereignty. That would be a ridiculous statement, okay? It's because they have to, it's just because they feel the need to for some reason.
How likely do you think we are to see US involvement continue in this? Because we know President Trump wanted regime change. He seems to have enacted that. However, will he see change that he wants?
That's precisely the issue, is basically from this moment on...
No, it's not. The issue isn't like the well-being of the Venezuelan people or the fact that we launched an attack and kidnapped the sovereign leader of a foreign nation. The issue is whether Trump gets what he wants, That's the big one.
The U.S. is going to, or should, morally at least, own what the outcomes are. And they're by no means certain. It is, I think, quite frankly, deeply unlikely that this will produce a pure democratic transition that would lead to the assumption of power of Maria Corina Machado, who Ione was just talking about, the Nobel Peace Prize laureate, precisely because there's a lot of opposition to her within the government. And this looks like, for now at least, those around Nicolas Maduro are still in power. So the United States, whatever happens, is going to have to own this moment. It's very similar to when the discussions over George W. Bush's invasion of Iraq occurred in 2003, when they cited the Pottery Barn rule. If you break it, you own it. In this particular case, the U.S. is going to have to provide some sort of support, whether it's security, diplomatic, and the like. And quite frankly, I don't know, and I worry that the Trump administration doesn't have the patience or the political base to be able to do that. The truth is within the United States, military action in Venezuela remained deeply unpopular. Only about 30% of Americans supported U.S. military action in Venezuela. So Donald Trump now has to skirt his responsibilities or try to navigate his responsibilities to any post-transition government in Venezuela and to the Venezuelan people, as well as to his own constituency, which remains very skeptical of this operation.
Christopher, good to speak to you as always.
Thank you.
Great. Fuck you. Good to know it's not just American media.
In Latin America. You talked about how we're going to watch for Vladimir Putin's response. Do you think Putin and President Xi of China will see what President Trump did and think that they now can do what they want in their sphere of influences? Does this undercut President Trump's claim that Vladimir Putin should never have invaded Ukraine when he goes into foreign countries and arrests their leaders? Does this support China's claim that it can go into Taiwan at a time and place of its choosing and change that government? How do you think China
You sound like
Russia
seditious
will see
thoughts,
this,
my
and you think
my
it will
friend.
encourage them to take more action, direct action, regime change level action in their own neighborhoods?
Keir, do you hear us? Richard will let
I'm not sure if
he may not. He may not hear us at the moment.
Out. I think he wasn't here.
He hears you now. Keir, go ahead.
Richard, can you hear me?
We hear you, Keir.
I
Go
can
ahead.
hear you now. Yes, you left us waiting. You built suspense.
Yeah, listen, I was saying that I think you posed the question well, Richard, and the question, one of the questions in all of this is, does this indicate to other powers around the world in what is rapidly becoming what experts describe as a multipolar world? Does this indicate to other powers around the world that it is okay to use your power to intervene in neighboring regions, in other countries where you feel you have an interest, even a vital interest? Now, of course, we've already seen Russia do that in Ukraine, so it's not as if other countries have been waiting for permission from the United States in many ways, and China, as you rightly point out, has a policy of reunification with Taiwan at some point in the future. I should say that the Chinese policy is that it hopes that that happens peacefully. But what I think this does do too, it's another piece of this, is it further pushes those powers towards the idea of influencing your own neighborhood. And this strike by the Trump administration in Venezuela comes just weeks after it issued its national security strategy.
Get off your phone. Sorry, I just realized that I was out of lip balm, so I have to order more.
U.S. influence in the Western Hemisphere. It even, and Richard, you will know this well, it even referenced a U.S. policy from the 19th century called the Monroe Doctrine, which was a policy that the U.S. had a right to take action and influence particularly countries in its region. And that was mentioned in the national security.
The U.S. is now worse than Israel. Well, everything Israel does, they do with our permission and blessing. So, you know, I wouldn't even separate the two. It's really just the U.S. and Israel are just, you know, Siamese twin. You know, they're an enmeshed being.
Strategy as a policy of the United States. Now, let's just frame this in terms that the Trump administration would view it, and that is this: the Trump administration might say, actually, it is in America's vital interests to ensure that there is that it lives in a region that is not a threat to it, and which is able to, and that it lives in a region that as far as possible is stable and democratic. Of course, whether or not strikes like these lead to stability is a point that you've been making, Richard, and it's an important one. But the Trump administration might say that drugs trafficking is a threat to it, and it has used that as a justification for the strikes on boats that we've seen in recent weeks. And it might say that Venezuela, with its close relationship with Russia, with its close relationship with Iran, with its relationship with China, that is not something that's acceptable for the United States, so close to the U.S. mainland. So
when was the last time the world was multipolar? The fucked up thing is that the world is not multipolar. It was multipolar during the Cold War. It's not right now. we still have an overwhelming amount of geopolitical influence that we have just been bleeding away for no reason. Don't get me started on this again, okay? Remember, we were not even enemies with China until American elites decided we needed to be. The only reason we think of China as a geopolitical rival, even though we're both dependent on each other for trade, is because they were a manufactured enemy, so that in a post-Cold War world, we would still have a foreign threat to justify the bullshit we were up to domestically. So we just took the fact that they were growing and modernizing rapidly as an excuse. Like, our explanation for why China was a threat to America was literally just because they were growing and modernizing quickly. That was it. It's all completely made up. And we made Russia an enemy.
This idea of the Monroe Doctrine has many facets, and it has a logic to it. But again, one of the issues here will be, Richard, whether or not, and this is something that people will be talking about in the days to come, weeks to come, frankly, given how significant this is in the months to come, whether or not this is something that is going to lead to a more stable region. Very often the United States has intervened in this manner in countries and not managed to bring about a more democratic, stable neighbor. So these are all issues that I think will be grappled with as we look ahead. And again, we simply don't know at this stage what the next coming days are going to be like in Venezuela and what is going to emerge from all of this.
Richard Keir, we appreciate both of you. I want you gentlemen to stay with us for a second. Just want to update you with some other information we've been receiving as we've been having these conversations right now. The president posting his statement a short time ago that Maduro has been captured, that he and his wife have been flown out of the country. We are hearing from a deputy secretary of state. We do know that the secretary of state himself, Marco Rubio, was with the president yesterday at his Mar-a-Lago property, Marco Rubio there. But this is from Christopher Landau, one of his deputies, who said a new dawn for Venezuela.
In a little over 5 hours, the president is holding a press conference from Mar-a-Lago talking about this. I have to be up for it. I gotta go. I need to be responsible here, okay? That's a tough call for me sleep-wise, but I'm gonna do my best. I'll try my best to be on time. Quick nap, then back at it, yeah. All donations I'll read tomorrow, probably. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I wish it was under better circumstances. Oh my god, man. Jesus. Hardest job in the world. Yeah. Ooh. Oh my god. I need to stretch before I go to sleep. What time is it for you? 2:30? So we all eepy now? Yeah. See you tomorrow.